Chapter 1135. These people's irresponsible words stunned her on the spot. So what you mean is that you don't plan to save her? That's right, and we also want to tell the Lord this good news. I believe that this good show will definitely make the Lord happy. That subordinate smile was somewhat gloating, deeply piercing Pang Zhijing's eyes. In order to achieve their goal, they did not hesitate to hurt others. Although she had known this for a long time, it was still her first time experiencing it. She deeply felt her own weakness and powerlessness. In the ancient times, how could she contend against the strong? Suddenly, her heart felt very uncomfortable. That gentle and strong face flashed in front of Pang Zhijing's eyes. In the forest, when they were facing the black-clothed men, it was her who stood up without hesitation and blocked her behind her. How could she tolerate such a clean and pure girl suffering from the dirty and poisonous hands of bad people? How could she repay kindness with enmity? Absolutely not. She propped her hands on the table, the corners of her mouth hooked up into a calculating arc. I have a good plan. I think it will definitely suit your family's lord style. Plan? That subordinate looked at her a bit cautiously. Just now, he was worried about Chu Qinyan, but now he suddenly changed his attitude. It was somewhat thought-provoking. Pang Zhijing crossed her arms and leaned against the window, lightly laughing. Now that Chu Qinyan has been captured, there is only the King of England left in the palace. Isn't that the best time for me to take advantage of this situation? That's not good. This subordinate feels that without the Lord's orders, it's better for you not to act on your own. The subordinate was still somewhat guarded. It was better to avoid trouble. Pang Zhijing flicked her hair, indifferently saying, the banquet is the night after tomorrow. There isn't much time left. Moreover, isn't your family's lord also spreading rumors about this princess and the King of England? Why not let the rumors become true? If your family's lord knows that you are so considerate of him, perhaps he will put you in an even more important position. Those subordinates looked at each other. It seemed that what she said was somewhat reasonable. Princess, didn't you want to save Chu Qinyan just now? One of them looked at her suspiciously. Pang Zhijing chuckled and said with a mocking tone, why would this princess save an insignificant person? My life is still in the hands of your lord. I'm not so stupid as to throw myself at him. These words caused everyone to completely let down their guard. Indeed, the princess and Chu Qinyan did not have much interaction. There was no need for her to sacrifice her life for her. Thus, the group of people immediately opened up a path and walked downstairs. Pang Zhijing, who had one hand on the armrest, heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. She had managed to get away with it. If she returned to the modern world, she would probably be able to develop her career in the entertainment industry. Her acting skills were unparalleled. But the most important thing now was to get to the King of England's mansion. Pang Zhijing sat in the carriage. Her heart was very anxious. Xiao Su, you must be in the Wang mansion. He had to be there. At this time, in the mansion of the King of England, Xiao Su was holding the latest letter with 2 fingers. His expression was uncertain. Lin Fengyi leaned against the back of the chair and looked at him with one hand supporting his chin. The rumors outside must be very unpleasant, right? His good friend's somewhat gloating tone made Xiao Su frown. You want to hear the rumors in the flower sleeves? I don't mind helping you spread it. Lin Fengyi's mouth stiffened. There's no need to trouble you. She's a troublemaker herself, so there's no need to trouble you. This fellow was in a fit of anger. It was better not to provoke him. Xiao Su glanced at him, then retracted his gaze. He put the letter in his hand on the table, his expression still unreadable. Speaking of which, it's a bit embarrassing that your own woman has been taken a fancy to by your own younger brother. Why didn't you notice? Lin Fengyi no longer had the attitude of watching a good show, and asked seriously. Xiao Su was silent for a while. Just when Lin Fengyi thought that he wouldn't answer, he said, I've already noticed that something was wrong before, but I didn't think too deeply about it. A few days ago, he played a male phoenix seeking a female phoenix at Hugua Temple. Although Ian didn't tell me, I was very clear about it. It turned out that his younger brother already had such deep feelings for the little fellow. It was really surprising. Lin Fengyi was shocked. What? He actually confessed his feelings to Miss Chu? Doesn't he know that she's your fiancée? Could it be that he inherited his mother's domineering personality? It's simply too hard to accept. Xiao Su didn't answer. His eyes were gloomy. Hey, in the past, you always gave in to your younger brother. You won't do it again this time, right? Lin Fengyi looked at him with a puzzled tone. This fellow wouldn't give up his beloved woman again, right? This wasn't something that he wouldn't do. Xiao Su coldly glanced at him. Iron isn't a thing. She has her own freedom and no one can force her. However, in the past, I didn't fight with Xiao Ran because those things didn't catch my eye. Iron is different. If he dares to stretch out his hand, I'll chop off his hand. If he dares to stretch out his leg, I'll destroy both of his legs. Lin Fengyi sucked in a breath. It was really rare to see such a domineering Xiao Su. He relaxed his expression and chuckled. As expected, only Chu Qingyan could bring out his true self. He was like a ferocious beast that roamed the world without any fluctuations in his emotions. Only Chu Qingyan was his taboo, causing him to no longer remain silent. This was really a good thing. Did Ian go out with Hua Xiao? Xiao Su recovered his usual indifference. He propped up his head with one hand and asked casually, "Truly, 1 day apart for 3 autumns. After not seeing her for half a day, you're already missing her." Lin Fengyi was in a joking mood. He picked up the teacup and slowly took a sip. Then he slowly continued, "I heard that they're discussing the recent sales performance. However, I'm not sure where they're going." At this time, Hua Ling walked in. "Master, Princess Nan Songjing is here to visit." Xiao Su didn't even raise his head as he coldly refused, "I'm not seeing her." On the side, Lin Fengyi nodded in confusion. This Princess Nansong's sudden visit is a bit strange. "Sir Lin, there's nothing strange about it. Didn't you hear the rumors outside? This Princess Nansong should be using this opportunity to spread some rumors with Master. That's why she suddenly came." Hua Ling explained with a bit of shame. Their master belonged to the little princess, so why did this Pang Jijing come here to cause trouble? If it affected the relationship between master and the little princess, then they, the subordinates, would definitely suffer a calamity. Lin Fengyi nodded in understanding. Pang Jijing sat in the living room and anxiously waited. Then, the person who came back expressionlessly said to her, "My master isn't feeling well and can't receive guests. Princess, please return." The subordinate beside Pang Jijing had a face full of resentment. This Xiao Su wasn't tactful at all. He actually dared to reject their princess outside the door. At this time, Pang Jijing stood up with a whoosh. If she couldn't see him, then she could only force her way in. Chapter 1136. Although those subordinates were indignant, they were still in someone else's territory, so they could only swallow their anger and bring the princess back first. But at this time, Pang Jijing suddenly stood up, giving them a fright. They said with a bit of unease, "Princess, let's go back. I am the princess of the southern Song country, but I am actually being treated coldly here. If this were to spread back, it would cause my royal father and consort mother to lose face. How could I do such an unfilial thing? Since your family's lord is not feeling well, then as a friend, I should go in and visit him." Pang Jijing said a bunch of things. While everyone was still listening to her, she used her petite body to charge in. She saw that person come out from that direction, so Xiao Su must be there. Hua Ling immediately reacted. He never thought that he would fall into this girl's trap. With a flash, he immediately grabbed at Pang Jijing. He definitely could not let anyone disturb his master. Just as he made a move, his wrist was grabbed. Hua Ling angrily looked over and was a bit surprised. "Turin, what are you stopping me for? The other side is the princess, so you shouldn't use too much strength. Otherwise, master will have to clean up your mess in the end." Turin let go of his hand and shook his head. Then he quickly followed Pang Jijing in front. Hua Ling rubbed his nose. He had forgotten the other side's identity and almost threw her out. It was a good thing that Turin stopped him. However, this southern Song princess's actions were strange. What did she want to do? At this time, the servants by Pang Jijing's side all rushed over. "This is bad. What did the princess want to do?" The news of Pang Jijing barging in had already reached Xiao Su's ears. Lin Fengyi clapped his hands. Let's meet. After all, we still have to maintain a friendly appearance. Otherwise, your imperial father will probably find some reason to suppress you. Xiao Su did not reply, but it was clear that he agreed with his words. At this time, the noise came from afar. Princess, don't randomly charge in. Scram, where is your lord? Pang Jijing looked around in panic. She was not afraid of the people in the palace, but she could not be caught by Xiao Ho's men. Otherwise, this trip would be in vain. She looked back and saw that Xiao Ho's subordinates had caught up. She gritted her teeth. There was nothing she could do. She yelled at the top of her lungs, Xiao Su, you coward! Hurry up and come out, or I'll teach you a lesson. A large group of people behind her were petrified. Where did this southern blue princess get her guts from? She was too daring. As soon as he finished speaking, someone responded. Princess Jean, if you can't give this king a reason to trespass, then don't blame this king for being impolite. Xiao Su stood coldly on the steps and looked down at her. Pang Jijing's hands were on her knees as she gasped for breath. When she heard his voice, she was overjoyed. She immediately raised her head and shouted, Miss Chu has been drugged and taken away. We don't know if she's dead or alive. As soon as she finished speaking, a person 10 feet away suddenly appeared in front of her. His entire body was emitting a cold aura. What did you say? This feeling was like a messenger from hell, emitting an aura of death. Pang Jijing shook her legs and immediately said, the other party is the Fu family's eldest young master, Fu Wanlai. As soon as she finished speaking, the person in front of her suddenly disappeared. She could only hear Xiao Su's voice from afar. Hua Ling, order Water Spirit to send out all the pigeons to find Ayan and Fu Wanlai's whereabouts. Turin, bring everyone. The pressure disappeared. Pang Jijing leaned against a tree and almost fell down. The undefeatable god of war truly lived up to his name. But at this time, she turned to look at the dark-faced Xiao Ho's subordinates and revealed a pale smile. Sorry, I used you guys. Princess, please go back and tell this to Lord yourself. The cold voice was mixed with resentment. Pang Jijing gently smiled and did not say anything else. At this moment, Xiao Su had already brought his men to the restaurant from before. Water Spirit said that the last place young princess consort appeared was here. And the shadow guards who followed young princess consort said that she did not leave this place from the moment she entered. So young princess consort should still be here. Hua Ling sized up this private room and thought that this Fu Anlai really had guts. He actually dared to have designs on their master. He must be tired of living. Master, this Fu Anlai is used to stealing and snatching women, that's why he did it so seamlessly. Even the shadow guards outside did not notice anything. Turin analyzed. If not for their arrival, the shadow guards would not know that young princess consort had gone missing. Xiao Su swept a glance at the shadow guards kneeling in front of him. These were the people he had sent to the little fellow's side. Even if he vented his anger on them now, it was useless. Still can't find her? He said with a cold expression. Hua Ling and Turin looked at each other. This subordinate has turned the entire restaurant upside down, but we still can't find young princess consort's whereabouts. Then there's no use in keeping this restaurant. He frowned and his tone was as cold as ice. Tear it down for Ben Wang. Heaven's wrath, thunder and lightning, sea's wrath, wind and waves. War god's wrath, nothing was left. A luxurious restaurant was razed to the ground in less than a quarter of an hour in the hands of the fierce cavalry. Master, we found a tunnel. Let's go. At this moment, Fu Anlai, who did not know what was happening on the ground, was ordering people to light candles. He wanted to take a good look at this beauty's face. When he finished admiring it, she would wake up. At that time, he would be able to enjoy her. This skin, as smooth as butter. This hair, as black as snow. This waist, as slender as a willow. These eyes, captivate the soul. Beauty, you're awake? Fu Anlai became excited and couldn't help moving closer. She felt that this sleep was not very peaceful, as if someone had been whispering something in her ear. Finally, she could not help but open her eyes, only to see a disgusting face. Although her body was weak, Her consciousness had returned to her body. She narrowed her eyes and looked at him with vigilance. Who are you? Wah, this voice was like the sound of nature. Fu Onlai drooled. Little wife, you must have heard of this young master. This young master is the eldest son of the first wife of the right prime minister, the younger brother of the most favored consort you. My name is Fu Onlai. Does this background scare you? It's fine, it's fine. As long as you agree to become this young master's 38th concubine, this young master will guarantee you a lifetime of wealth. 38th concubine? This number sounds disgusting. Also, your name seems to be very disgusting in my memory. Chu Qingyan raised the corner of her lips. Wasn't this the hedonistic young master that she had bumped into 5 years ago when he was trying to snatch a girl on the street? Today, he actually dared to have such thoughts about her. He simply didn't know the meaning of death. After saying his name, she actually did not have any reaction. No, it should be said that she was mocking him. Fu Onlai's anger surged. You don't know what's good for you. Once this young master enjoys you, you will never leave this young master. Just as he was drooling and reaching out his hands towards her belt, the door to the secret room was suddenly kicked open from the outside. Fu Onlai turned around in fright. He only saw a cloud of dust, making it hard to see clearly. However, he saw a figure against the light, like a war god bathed in blood, with an imposing aura. Daring to touch this prince's woman? Are you tired of living? Chapter 1137. Pa, the wooden block was crushed. In this quiet space, it was strange and eerie, bringing with it an absolute pressure. Dust flew up, and in the grayish-yellow halo, a figure gradually became clear. A dark black robe fluttered in the halo, like a hunter of the night. From head to toe, there was a cold, killing intent. Who are you? Also, do you know who I am? Fu Onlai choked on the dust and couldn't speak a complete sentence, but at this time, he didn't forget to maintain a fierce expression in front of the other party. He was completely unaware that at this time, someone who could break through his defenses and find this place was someone he couldn't afford to offend. The light faded, and the robe fluttered in the air. The appearance of the person who came gradually became clear, like a sharp sword being unsheathed. It doesn't matter who this king is, and it doesn't matter who you are. But since you touched this king's woman, tell me, how do you want to die? This king will satisfy you. Absolute domineering, absolute killing intent, and absolute oppressiveness. Fu Onlai subconsciously trembled. No one dared to speak to him like this. Come, where did this person die? Come out for me, tie up this arrogant person for me. Tie him up? The silver mask was revealed in the light, and the thin lips that were not covered slowly curved up, like a cold sneer. Fu Onlai already felt the danger, and at this time, one dumpling after another was thrown in from the door. Young master, save me. One by one, the human dumplings were tied up and thrown in front of him. Fu Onlai finally remembered that this person had said, this king. Could this person be Lord? At this time, he didn't dare to be negligent. He looked up and saw the legendary silver mask. His eyes widened, and his mouth opened wide. Could it be, you are the King of England, Xiao Su? As soon as the words fell, a footprint appeared on his face. Fu Onlai was kicked to the ground. He coughed and spat out a tooth along with blood. Hua Ling retracted his foot and said with a cold expression, My lord's name is not something that anyone can easily call out. Fu Onlai had never received such treatment before. Normally, everyone who saw him would be respectful and politely call him young master. But today, he knew that he had fallen, and fallen into the hands of such a terrifying person. Homicidal maniac, cold-blooded general, ghost-face playboy. Just thinking about it made his legs go soft. He fell to the ground and didn't even have the strength to get up. Wait, the King of England's woman? Then wouldn't she be? After the anesthetic wore off, Chu Qingyan propped herself up. At this time, Xiao Su had already walked over to the bed and sat down beside her. He reached out and touched her face. His fingers were cold, but after touching her skin, they slowly warmed up. When he couldn't find her, he felt like he was in an ice cellar. He always thought that as long as there were hidden guards by her side, even if she wasn't by his side, they would be able to keep her safe. But today, he was shocked to find out that when someone went missing, they could send out everyone in a few short moments, but they still couldn't find a trace of her. At that moment, he felt a heart-wrenching pain and was incomparably flustered. He always thought that he wouldn't experience this kind of strong emotional fluctuation. But today, he finally understood what fear was. "I'm fine, I just slept for a bit." Sensing that the hand covering her face was trembling, Chu Qingyan was slightly taken aback. It turned out that the battle god, who was so strong that no one could match him, also had times when he was afraid. Her heart warmed as she curled her lips and smiled gently at him. Xiao Su pressed her into his embrace. Only by using each other's body temperature could he be sure that she was in front of him. With his ability, he wasn't afraid of not being able to find her. But he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to find her in time. In this world, there were countless ways to torture people. It took a lot of effort to live, but to kill a person, it only took a blink of an eye. What he was most afraid of was that when he found her, she would be covered in wounds and not make a sound. That was his greatest fear. "I almost lost you. Luckily, I found you before you were hurt." The strength that he used to squeeze her into his embrace was very painful, but compared to the torment that Big Ice Cube suffered today, it was nothing. She hugged him back and said gently, "It's fine, I'm fine, don't worry." What she received in response was an even stronger hug. Anyone with a discerning eye could feel the deep affection and sweetness, and Fu Anlai was no exception. He never thought that the person he had accidentally kidnapped was actually Chu Qingyan, the woman whose name shook the capital the moment she appeared. He was somewhat regretful. How did he provoke such a troublesome person? "Your Highness King Ing, you see, I didn't touch your people and I'm unharmed. Can you let me live?" Fu Anlai's infuriating words made the fierce cavalry clench their fists. As long as their master gave the order, they would definitely treat him as a punching bag and would not be lenient. Xiao Su opened his eyes and let go of one hand, but the other hand was still tightly hugging Chu Qingyan's waist. He turned and coldly glanced at the person on the ground, as if he was looking at a dead person. "Is that so? Unharmed? But this king is in a bad mood. King of England, I am Consort Yu's younger brother, the son of the left prime minister. Even if you don't want to give the monk face, at least give the Buddha face and don't bicker with me." At this time, Fu Anlai still didn't give up. He immediately pulled out the two big mountains behind him, thinking that this Xiao Su would definitely be afraid and not bicker with him. After all, he had previously snatched women from the officials of the imperial court. As soon as he used this move, those people obediently swallowed their anger and didn't dare to bicker with him. Some of them even took the initiative to offer him beauties in order to build a good relationship with him. However, Fu Anlai had forgotten who the person in front of him was. The king of hell who fought bloody battles on the battlefield, the thousand-year cold ice who was unmoved by force or persuasion, the king who never put fame and wealth in his eyes. Xiao Su raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a smile. Just when Fu Anlai thought that his trick had worked, the cold words slowly flowed out of his thin lips. "Consort Yu, left prime minister, what are you?" "So, what are you?" Chu Qingyan blinked. What a domineering big ice block. She loved it to death. Fu Anlai was completely stunned. He completely didn't know that a disaster was about to befall him. "Don't you like beauties? Do you enjoy that feeling? Then this king will fulfill your wish." Xiao Su waved his hand and people came forward to drag him away. Fu Anlai was frightened. "Miss Chu, I have rudely offended you this time. Please do a good deed and ask the King of England to forgive me this time." Chu Qingyan retracted her gaze and leaned on Xiao Su, unwilling to even look at this scum. Who knew how many good women he had bullied with his status? Today, he would be taught a harsh lesson. No. Fu Anlai didn't have time to say anything before his mouth was gagged and he was dragged away. Soon, the entire secret room was cleared of people. Chu Qingyan thought that it was about time. She reached out to pull her big ice block back, but found that her wrist was grabbed by the person in front of her and she couldn't move at all. She raised her head and met a pair of eyes as dark as the deep sea. She couldn't help but be stunned. Chapter 1138. Big Ice Cube. She was a little confused. What was wrong with the big ice cube? His slender fingers once again covered her face. This time, there was a hint of pity in his eyes. Ian, I let you get hurt again under my watch. Am I useless? The ice cube that was used to deal with Fu Onlai seemed to have met with the scorching sun at this moment. It slowly melted and finally became the softest water. However, his gentle words carried a heart-wrenching self-reproach and guilt. She couldn't help but raise her head and raise her hand to cover his hand. It's nothing. I was careless and made you worry again. Xiao Su pressed his forehead against hers and said softly with a sigh, Ian, I'm a little regretful. What? She tilted her head and looked at him. I feel that the way I dealt with that trash was too light. After saying this, he lowered his head and sucked on her lips. His hands pulled her closer and made her stick close to him. Two young bodies were sewn together, as if no one could separate them. This kiss came too suddenly. She tilted her head up and was forced to endure his sudden and violent attack. He was rarely so anxious. From his movements and strength, she could feel his uneasiness and self-reproach. Her eyes moistened. This big ice cube made people want to take pity on him. She hugged his back and followed his movements, catering to him. I'm sorry to have made you worry again. Xiao Su felt her actions. He closed his eyes and deepened the kiss. In the quiet secret room, on the beautifully decorated bed, the two outstanding young man and woman did not hide their love for each other. They were deeply entangled. Snow-white skin, warm body temperature, and whose black hair could not be distinguished. When the fingertips brushed past, it was a trembling love. At this moment, he could only use this method to sense the other party's existence. It was not like before when he stretched out his hand but did not know where the other party disappeared to. And the main culprit who caused all of this was currently being fed medicine. What is this? I don't want to eat it. Let me go. Fu Onlai struggled with all his might, refusing to drink the medicine. Water Spirit, whose face was covered by a veil, crossed her arms and looked at Fu Onlai, who was struggling for his life. She chuckled and said, Don't worry. This is not poison. It's a miraculous elixir that will make you drunk. Oh no, it's asshole. Don't refuse it. Every drop is very precious. Her voice was like a fairy's, but in Fu Onlai's ears, it was like the call of the king of hell. He struggled even more violently, but the medicine was still forced down his throat. He fell to the ground in a sorry state and pointed angrily at the people present. I will remember all of you. My father and sister will not let you off. Really? Shui Ling walked over and stepped on his finger, turning a blind eye to his howling and wailing as she said in a soft voice, My mistress is looking forward to you not letting her go. With that, she turned around. Is everyone ready? Everything is ready. One of the fierce cavalry replied. Then throw them in. Immediately after, the bullies who usually followed Fu Onlai in the secret room were thrown on the ground like a human pyramid. They were all drugged and lying on the ground weakly. Fu Onlai did not know what they were going to do. He wanted to stand up and call for help, but he found that there was something wrong with his body. Soon, his gaze became infatuated. Why were there so many beauties on the ground? He walked towards the servants step by step, drooling. He took off one of the servants' robes. That person screamed, Young master, what are you doing? Help. What a beautiful voice. Save, save. The door closed behind him. Water Spirit's lips curled up, revealing a wicked smile. Don't you like beauties? Then this time, the fierce cavalry will give you a big gift. When the sun rises tomorrow, the news that the Fu family's eldest young master likes to fool around with more than 10 men will spread throughout the capital. At that time, you don't have to thank the fierce cavalry for making you famous. The Fu family, consort you, left Prime Minister, in the eyes of our fierce cavalry, what are they? Anyone who dares to touch our beloved little princess consort should be prepared to face the consequences. Water Spirit, how is the matter Master gave you coming along? Hua Ling appeared in the hallway and subconsciously asked Water Spirit, who was walking over. It's been a long time since I've dealt with an opponent like this. It feels like the evil energy that has been suppressed has finally been released. It really feels good. Water Spirit covered her mouth with a handkerchief and her smile made people's hair stand on end. After Water Spirit left, Turin passed by the hallway and saw Hualing, who was sticking to the wall like a gecko. He couldn't help but ask, "What is this new move of yours?" "Too scary, too scary. Water Spirit has turned evil." Hualing said this and slowly slid to the ground like a sticker. Never offend a woman. At this time, Pang Jijing was forced into a horse carriage by her subordinates and was quickly sent back to the relay station. She sat in the horse carriage with her hands tightly holding onto the wooden planks. Although her face was calm, her heart was currently in a mess. She had openly disobeyed Xiao Ho's orders and seemed to have caused him quite a bit of trouble. Would he become angry and kill her? Thinking of this, her lips unconsciously turned white. However, fate always liked to play tricks on people. The horse carriage stopped and her heart skipped a beat. Were they there yet? At this time, a white hand reached in from outside. Like a movie in slow motion, the hand grabbed the curtain and then opened it. She swallowed a mouthful of saliva and her back was tightly pressed against the wall. Her eyes were wide open as she watched the light from outside slowly enter the carriage, dispelling the darkness. But for the current her, the darkness had truly arrived. "Your Highness, you made this king wait for a long time." At the end of the curtain, a weak-looking face was looking at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. His voice was strange, like a monster with its mouth wide open, waiting for her to walk into its trap. Why are you here?" She was afraid and her voice trembled. "I received a report from my subordinates and began to wait for your Highness. I wanted to hear what your Highness had to say." It was a gentle voice, but it was filled with a cruel, killing intent. She was afraid of looking at him. She looked away and saw the unfamiliar scenery outside. She was surprised. "Where is this?" Before she could finish speaking, she screamed out in shock. The few subordinates who had threatened her earlier were now lying on the ground with their eyes wide open. They had died silently in front of her, taking care of a few disobedient people that frightened the princess. "Someone come, clean them up. Don't scare the princess," Xiao Ho lightly said. It was clearly for her to see. It was too terrifying. She wanted to escape from here. She didn't want to stay here anymore. Slaughter, schemes, blood, this was not her world at all. She wanted to escape. Chapter 1139. When Xiao Su carried the person in his arms and left the tunnel, the person in his arms suddenly popped her head out and tugged at his sleeve. "She should have been taken away with me. Where is she now?" She did not have the thick skin to face him after such an intimate action just now, but because she thought of her good friend's safety, she had to lower her head and take the initiative to speak. This kind of soft voice, with the unique gentleness of a young girl, was like a cat's paw gently scratching his heart. It itched, and the desire for her that had dissipated with great difficulty just now began to revive at this moment. He lowered his head and used the tip of his nose to lightly rub her face. "Don't worry, Feng Yi also came over. She should be very safe now." Chu Qingyan's heart leaped with joy. Just as she was about to raise her head to thank him, she happened to fall into his well-designed trap. The moment she raised her head, his kiss landed precisely on her lips. What a big baddie! However, she still could not bear to disappoint him, and still could not help but sink with him. However, just as the two of them were kissing passionately, an untimely voice was heard. "In broad daylight, you guys are too much." Lin Fengyi's light laughter rang out clearly in the tunnel. The two of them were stunned. They turned their heads and saw Lin Fengyi standing not too far away, as well as Hua Xiao in his arms. "You talk too much." Xiao Su did not feel embarrassed at all at being interrupted. Instead, he looked unhappily at this passerby who interrupted them. Lin Fengyi shrugged. "Can't help it, you guys are blocking the way." Xiao Su snorted softly, then hugged the little fellow in his arms tightly and walked forward. As if sensing her shyness, he said softly, "You'll be fine after a nap. We'll be home soon." Chu Qingyan was still worrying about how to face official Lin. She was not as thick-skinned as the Big Ice Cube, so the Big Ice Cube's words were just what she wanted. She nodded and closed her eyes. She was really a little sleepy. Lin Fengyi was a little surprised. I didn't expect you to be so gentle in front of Miss Chu. It's scary. Xiao Su coldly glanced at him, then his gaze landed on the sleeping Hua Xiao. Take care of your people, don't talk so much. Had he hit the nail on the head? Lin Fengyi smiled lightly and walked side by side with him in the secret tunnel. Xiao Su, thank you for saving Xiao Xiao. He sincerely thanked him. It's what I should do. Xiao Su's face was as cold as usual. Lin Fun's expression. In the evening, the setting sun hung high in the sky. The clouds seemed to be dyed red with blood, making people dizzy. Because. I didn't kill Boren, but Boren died because of me. Pang Jijing bit her lips hard. She was in an extreme state of self-denial. Why you standing there in a daze? Come down. Xiao Ho turned to leave, but he didn't hear the sound of someone following behind him. He couldn't help but frown and turn back. He saw that her head was lowered, so he couldn't see her face. He was silent for a moment, then walked back to the carriage. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he reached out to carry her down the carriage. Pang Jijing subconsciously dodged the hand that suddenly reached out. Xiao Ho himself couldn't understand why he would do this. When he reached out his hand, there was some struggle in his heart. But when he saw that she wasn't cooperating, his face darkened. He forcefully pulled her into his arms, then turned and walked towards his courtyard. The body in his arms was trembling. It was like a basin of water had extinguished his anger. He lowered his head to look at her. Why are you hiding? This voice was like a devil from hell. She couldn't help but close her eyes. She didn't dare to look around because there was blood on the ground that she didn't dare to look at. Pang Jijing hugged her arms tightly. She felt like she was in the coldest place in the world, freezing her to the bone. She had always been chatty, like a chatterbox. But today's unusual silence made him a little uncomfortable. Are you afraid? He made an exception and spoke again. His tone wasn't questioning, but affirming. Her tightly closed eyelashes trembled slightly, then she slowly opened them. She was like a lost traveler in the sea, looking for help from a shark. She was afraid and helpless. Will you kill me? Xiao Ho paused because of her words. Then he continued to walk forward, his eyes looking forward. If you don't do anything wrong, if you don't betray this king, you will be safe. Pang Jijing was silent again. After not receiving a response for a long time, Xiao Ho frowned and lowered his head. He saw that she was like a frightened kitten, obediently curled up in his arms. But her hands were tightly clasped together, not daring to touch him. This kind of Pang Jijing made him feel unfamiliar and he couldn't understand her. In the past, she was lively and mischievous, hiding many strange ideas in her heart. She was impolite and didn't treat herself as a princess, nor did she treat him as the lord. She was like an outlier living in their social class. But he didn't reject it, because she lived the way he wanted to live. She had a vitality that he didn't have. After a while, Pang Jijing was put down. Her mood finally calmed down. She looked around. This was an unfamiliar environment. Where is this? She couldn't help but ask the person whose back was facing her. This king's manor. Xiao Ho finished instructing the servant and then turned to stand in front of her. The devil's lair? Pang Jijing took 2 steps back, her expression a little panicked. Why did you bring me here? Darren and the others will be worried if they can't find me. I want to go back. Xiao Ho casually said, this king has already arranged for people to pretend to be you returning to the relay station. This answer made her even more uneasy. You, what exactly do you want to do? This king should be the one asking you this. Pang Jijing, you trespassed into the King of England's manor without permission and leaked information. What exactly do you want to do? Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes, his tone carrying a dangerous aura. He still intended to pursue this matter. Don't tell this king that you're overflowing with kindness. Pang Jijing, did you forget our agreement? Pang Jijing looked at the person in front of her in horror. Once he called her by her full name, it was a sign of his anger. He closed in on her step by step. She retreated step by step until she tripped over a tree root behind her and fell to the ground. The gravel rubbed into her palms and she felt a burning pain, just like the pain in her eyes at this moment. Why do you have to force me? I didn't want to come here at all. Who wants to be this lousy princess? At home, I was my parents' little princess. I hate this place, Xiao. I hate you, I hate everyone here. Sob, sob. Fear and despair were like thorny vines, twining around her body, tightening inch by inch. It was so painful that she couldn't breathe. Xiao wanted to reach out and pull her up, but he was stunned by her sudden crying. Xiao, I hate you. Hate this king. Chapter 1140. Pang Jijing's words caused waves to surge in Xiaoho's heart. The words that people said when they were on the verge of collapse were like the truth after drinking. Every word came from the bottom of their heart. Xiaoho was slightly dazed. It wasn't that he hadn't experienced the feeling of being hated before, but he didn't know why it felt different when it came from her mouth. But why did he care if she hated him or not? It didn't matter whether she was there or not. But he still couldn't help but walk in front of her and squat down. What's there to cry about? This prince hasn't even started to bully you yet. His tone carried a bit of helplessness. When the words buried in her heart were shouted out, it was like a balloon filled with air had burst with a bang. It was as if all of her strength and courage had disappeared. Then she began to regret it. She shrank back and hugged her knees. She didn't dare to look at him and didn't dare to speak. Seeing her like this, Xiaoho rubbed his forehead and felt a bit helpless. Where did the courage you had to go against this prince go? Without waiting for her answer, Xiaoho reached out and picked her up. He turned around and walked towards his courtyard. Pang Jijing thought that this person would leave her here, but she didn't expect that in the end. She put down the fear in her heart and secretly raised her head to look at him. From this angle, she could only see his delicate lower jaw. It was like the peaks of a snowy mountain, mysterious and charming. It made people want to approach him. She immediately stopped this thought, lowered her eyes again, and calmed her emotions. Her every move was under his eyes. Seeing her panic, Xiaoho slightly hooked his lips. He didn't hesitate to use the honey trap just now, and it was really useful. Where are we going? Put me down and I can walk by myself. She felt that the more she walked, the quieter her surroundings became. But the more beautiful the place was, the more thorny it was. She couldn't help but start to struggle. Xiaoho tightened his arms and his tone was a bit impatient. Don't move or I'll throw you down. Receiving this threat, even if she didn't want to, she could only be quiet. He wasn't a gentle hypocrite in front of others, but why did he expose himself in front of her? Why didn't he put on a full act? After a while, they entered a courtyard. The trees were lush and luxuriant, and flowers were everywhere. It was very beautiful, as if this courtyard was located in a small garden. Pang Jijing's attention was quickly attracted, and the cautiousness and uneasiness she felt just now was reduced by a lot. Seeing this, Xiaoho's expression softened. It seemed that coming here was the right choice. He placed her on the bed and turned to walk to the door. Not long after, he returned with a medicine bottle. Pang Jijing was looking around. There were paintings and zither hanging on the walls. It was a bookish room. However, after a while, her line of sight was blocked. The corner of her mouth twitched. Didn't this person just go out? Why did he come back? Hand. He sat down in front of her and looked at her hand. She stared blankly for a moment before she opened her palm. It was completely red, and there were even traces of blood in some places. It turned out that he had gone to get her medicine. I'll do it myself. You dash. Before she could finish speaking, her wrist was already grasped by him, and she was pulled in front of him. Then, he opened the bottle and began to apply the medicine for her. You're so clumsy. Let this prince do it. Xiaoho's tone didn't hide his disdain. Although she was grateful when she heard him say that, Pang Jijing couldn't help but mutter, "Why don't you take a look at who caused this?" Xiaoho glanced at her. She thought that he was going to lecture her again, so she swallowed her saliva. Unexpectedly, he lowered his head again, as if nothing had happened, and carefully applied the medicine for her. Growing up, you've always injured your leg or hand. You're quite capable. he said coldly. Pang Jijing's mouth twitched. Wasn't it all his fault? However, it seemed that he was the one who bandaged all the injuries. What kind of person was he? He was very ambitious and very scheming, but at the same time, he was also very gentle. Which one was the real him? Why are you in a daze? Along the way, she was unusually silent. He thought that it was about time, but he didn't expect that it would continue until now. He was used to her usual rowdiness, but now that he saw her depressed look, he felt a little uncomfortable. Hearing this, she raised her head. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She did not even think before she spoke. Xiao Ho, can killing solve the problem? Xiao Ho was stunned. He didn't expect her to ask this question. What are you trying to say? I know that this is an era where the strong prey on the weak, but everyone only has one life. Everyone is born equal. The difference between high and low is just because the upper class wants to control. In fact, everyone's life is just a short few decades. We don't have the right to deprive others of their right to live. Maybe you think that I'm stupid, but I don't agree with using killing to solve problems. Blood will only bring more resentment. Living should not only be about the persistence for power, the desire for money, the obsession for pleasure, but more importantly, learning to love yourself and others. Pang Jijing lowered her head. When she said this, she didn't dare to look at him, afraid that she would see a sneer in his eyes. Then she slowly said each word. Since you think it's stupid, then don't say it out loud. Because it will only make people think that you're even more stupid. The light mocking tone sounded in her ears. She raised her head in a daze. When she saw the contempt in his eyes, she couldn't help but feel defeated. It was still like this. You're too naive. It's like persuading a beast in the mountains to give up on meat and eat grass. Do you think that's possible? After Xiao Ho finished bandaging her wound, he withdrew his hand. Then, he stood up and looked down at her from above. Only those who are strong can live longer. This is the law of this world. Pang Jijing deeply sighed. It was her who was delusional to think that she could change other people's minds. She was really naive. Seeing him turn around to leave, she didn't know why, but she wanted to call out to him. Hey! Xiao Ho turned around and raised his eyebrows. Is there anything else? You're not going to pursue today's matter? After saying this, she wanted to bite off her own tongue. She really touched a sore spot. Xiao Ho chuckled. You're already scared to this extent. It seems like the punishment is already enough. If I really teach you a lesson, wouldn't this prince lose you as a chess piece? Chess piece? It really hurts. But since you mentioned it, then this prince will give you a chance. Why did you save her? She lowered her head and replied, She saved my life. I can't just watch her get hurt. Moreover, she's a good girl. Xiao Ho wasn't surprised. Someone will send you back later. After saying this, he stepped out of the room. After taking large strides down the steps, he stopped in his tracks. She felt as if she was running away because of what she had just said. Learn to love yourself and then love others? What a joke. But he didn't know why, but his heart was momentarily confused because of her words. Originally, he had captured her to punish her for being disobedient today. But when he saw the panic and fear in her eyes, he suddenly couldn't bear to do it. Seeing her injured, there was a strange feeling in his heart. Xiao Ho, what's wrong with you? Chapter 1141. However, there was a traffic jam on the road leading to the relay station because of a mad horse. Pang Jijing's return was delayed for the time being. After Xiao Ho left, Pang Jijing was bored in the room, so she walked around. When she came out of the room, more than 10 maidservants surrounded her, wanting to serve her. She was so scared that she hid in the room again. Not only because of her identity as a princess, but also because this was the first time their lord personally brought a woman in. Everyone was very curious and gathered in the courtyard, wanting to see her face. Unfortunately, they scared the princess away and were chased out of the courtyard by the housekeeper. Pang Jijing let out a sigh of relief. It was too scary. Why were the people in this place so enthusiastic? They didn't seem like people who would follow and serve that hypocrite. Since she couldn't go back for a while and couldn't go out, She might as well stay in the room and stroll around. Just now, she was still worried about the room and didn't dare to touch Xiaoho's things. But in the end, she was really bored, so she began to touch here and there. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of something from the corner of her eyes. She put down the painting in her hand and walked over. Compass? She picked it up and placed it in her palm, looking left and right. Wasn't this the compass that Pang Huang gave to Xiaoho last time in order to restrict her? But Xiaoho said that this was just Pang Huang deliberately mystifying it, so it was useless. Was it really useless? She suddenly wanted to try it. Anyway, she had nothing to do. So she put down the compass and stood 3 steps away. She found that the needle was pointing at her. She moved 1 step to the right and the needle moved to the right. She was stunned and immediately took another step to the left. The needle moved to the left and pointed in her direction. She immediately went to the table and picked up the compass, wanting to knock it. At this time, a voice sounded. "What are you doing?" She was startled and the compass fell to the ground. Xiaoho approached her and bent down to pick up the compass. His brows slightly wrinkled. It seemed that she had discovered the secret of the compass. The stiff Pang Zhijing instantly recovered. She jumped away from his side and angrily pointed at him. "You lied to me. This compass is real." "That's right. Last time, I relied on it to find you." Xiaoho did not deny it. Instead, he openly admitted it. Guessing was one thing, but verifying it was another. The anger in her heart could not be extinguished. Her anger rose again, and she forgot her fear of him. "Is it that fun to play with me?" Xiaoho was playing with the compass when he heard her words. He turned his eyes and his gaze fell on her face that was full of vitality. Finally, she didn't have that gloomy and fearful appearance. His mood was very good for no reason and he had the intention to tease her. "I didn't think it was fun at first, but seeing your reaction now, it's not bad." She was so angry that she couldn't speak. "The reason why I lied to you about the compass being useless was because I wanted to lower your guard. If there was a day when you escaped with a fluke mentality, Ben Wang wouldn't be afraid of not being able to find you." Xiaoho felt that her current appearance was very interesting, so he didn't hide his original intentions. Pang Zhijing stomped her feet. This person was too hateful. If she hadn't discovered this secret, wouldn't she be caught very quickly if she wanted to escape in the future? "Xiaoho, you're going too far." Xiaoho suddenly approached her and she backed away in fear, but she was blocked by the table. She could only lean against the table and watch him approach. When he was an inch away from her nose, Xiaoho stopped smiling and looked at her with a threatening gaze. "If you obediently complete our plan and don't run away, then whether this compass is useful or not doesn't have much meaning. But if you have any other thoughts, then..." The two of them knew what he didn't finish speaking. Fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Her fingers gripped the corner of the table behind her. Her legs felt weak. Just now, she did have the thought of running away for a moment. This person was too scary. He could actually see through people's hearts. After Xiaoho finished speaking, he stood up and left her side. His eyes returned to being as gentle as water. "Be good and listen to me. This king will give the compass and the set of keys to you." The person in front of her who was gentle on the outside was actually evil on the inside. Pang Zhijing clenched her fists. She couldn't be tempted by his beauty. "All right." She nodded. Xiaoho finally revealed a satisfied expression. At this time, a servant came to report that the carriage was ready and he let her leave. As if she had received amnesty, Pang Zhijing didn't dare stay any longer. She lifted her skirt and immediately ran out. The sound of footsteps slowly walked away. Xiaoho lowered his head and the compass turned in his hand. The needle followed the direction that person went and slowly moved. His expression instantly turned cold. Before, he did not care about the compass and had casually placed it on the table. That was why she had found it today. It seemed like he needed to take good care of it in the future and not let her touch it so easily. She was not a law-abiding person. Once she got the compass or the key, she would probably run away. When he was putting away the compass, Xiaoho's fingers suddenly stopped. He knit his brows in thought. For a moment, he didn't want her to leave. He gave a cold smile. How was that possible? Whether she was here or not, what did it have to do with him? Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiaoli safely returned. The gloomy atmosphere in the king's palace suddenly dissipated. In the evening, Hua Xiaoli was rubbing his forehead as he appeared in front of Chu Qingyan's room. I say we were both drugged. Why are you so lively and I'm so weak? Hua Xiaoli looked at a certain person drinking tea and began to complain. Chu Qingyan looked up at the person and smiled. First, my body is stronger than yours. My resistance is stronger than yours. Second, you ate too much today. Naturally, you ate more drugs than me. Hua Xiaoli snorted. Too much. You actually put drugs in the food. You're too petty. Chu Qingyan chuckled and said with sarcasm, the people of the Fu family have always been like this. There's nothing to be surprised about. Hua Xiaoli nodded, that's right. But I didn't think that the one who saved us was the Southern Blue Princess. Wasn't it rumored that she was very overbearing? Moreover, she even broke into the king's palace to report. It's really inconceivable. Rumors can't be trusted. I think she's a good girl. In all fairness, Pang Jijing gave her the feeling of a little sister next door. Putting aside her identity, she was very happy to make friends with her. No matter what, she saved us. Should we properly thank her? Hua Xiaoli was a person who didn't want to owe anyone a favor, so she asked. Chu Qingyan smiled and nodded, that's exactly what I want. Didn't we get a lot of new products recently? Why don't we give her a few to express our gratitude? Hua Xiaoli suggested. I think so too. Chu Qingyan laughed. Hua Xiaoli clapped and smiled, then I'll go prepare and invite her out tomorrow. Chu Qingyan nodded again. Before leaving, Hua Xiaoli stopped and smiled sinisterly at her friend. I heard that Fu Anlai was made a fool of by your family. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. After saying that, she hummed a song and left. Chu Qingyan held her chin and smiled. I'm also looking forward to it. Chapter 1142. The darkness of the night faded and dawn arrived. As the first rays of the morning sun peeked out, there were already people setting up stalls on the streets and people entering the city for the market. Birds led the way and flowers bloomed gracefully. Everything seemed to be very beautiful and thriving. However, a scream pierced through the sky. Immediately after, screams of alarm rose and fell in this quiet and restless morning. Fu Anlai's whole body was sore and weak. Seeing his clothes scattered all over the floor, he did not react. His memory was still stuck in the previous secret chamber, thinking that he had already won the beauty's heart. He was overjoyed. When he was about to cry out, he suddenly felt that the atmosphere in the room was not right. He turned his head and saw some men's clothes scattered on the floor. Then he looked up and saw his manservants and guards sitting naked on the floor, trembling and looking at him in horror, as if they were afraid that he would pounce on them again. A cool breeze blew. One breath, two breaths. Fu Anlai let out a scream. No matter how stupid he was, he could not see the situation clearly. He had actually slept with men, and with so many of them. Not long after the scream, the door was pushed open. Fu Anlai raised his head and saw dozens of pairs of eyes. Young Master Fu is actually a homosexual. Not only that, but with so many men in one night, too scary. Update, update, update. The eldest son of the Fu family doesn't like women, but men. Being stared at by so many people and being completely naked, Fu Anlai could only cover his upper body, but not his lower body. Those servants were also running around naked. It could be said that he was in a complete mess and in an extremely sorry state. Fu Anlai felt that everything was over. The commoners who had been arranged by Xiao Lai Chi to watch a good show. They were often bullied by Fu Anlai and his gang of scoundrels and had long been holding back their anger. Now that they had vented their anger, they excitedly ran around to tell each other. Very quickly, there were many versions of this day among the commoners. Humans were born with the instinct to gossip. Since it was about the son of a noble and such an unbearable person, they added fuel to the fire and intensified. The versions were all different, but the only similarity was that on this day and in the future, Fu Anlai would become the laughingstock of the commoners in the capital and even the nearby cities. Today was an unforgettable day for Fu Anlai. And in the future he would not only face the ridicule of the commoners, but also the disdain of the nobles of the same class. For Xiao Lai Chi, it was easy to kill a person, but the rise and fall of his sword was too easy. Rather than that, it was better to let him live and feel the pain of those he had bullied. Everyone knew of his vile character, but in the aristocratic families, which one of them didn't have any filth, it was just that they didn't show it on the surface. Today, Xiao Lai Chi had helped him remove that layer of cloth, revealing all of his ugliness in front of the world. Not only would he be cursed by the common people, he would also be looked down upon by the aristocratic children. CD. It was Chu Qingyan. Pang Zhijing smiled. She did not expect it to be her. She closed the invitation and immediately stood up. She wanted to get people to prepare to leave for the King of England's residence. However, the maidservant who served her stopped her. "Princess, Lord said that it's best for you not to have anything to do with Chu Qingyan. Let this servant help you reject this invitation." Pang Zhijing frowned. "Since when did it become your turn to interfere with this princess's matters?" "Princess, this servant did not mean that." The maid did not expect the princess, who was usually meek and submissive, to be angry. She could not handle it. Pang Zhijing sneered. "If you want to be the princess, this princess will give it to you. So you don't have to talk nonsense here. Do you think I'm a sick cat if I don't show my might? When Xiao Ho bullied me, I can endure it. But if others dare to bully me, I will spit out a mouthful of salt soda water." The maid immediately knelt down in panic. "This servant dares not. This servant dares not." Although they thought this princess was a puppet, Prince Yi and Xiao Ho's attitude towards her was too ambiguous. Yesterday, there was a rumor that Prince Yi behaved intimately with her. Because of this, they did not know how to deal with it. At this moment, they could only admit defeat. Otherwise, they would be punished miserably. "Humph, cut the crap. Get ready. This princess will leave for the King of England's residence in 4 hours. Anyway, Xiao Ho wanted her and Xiao Su to have a scandal. If Xiao Ho asked about it later, she would use this to block him so that he could not blame her." After the maid complied, she immediately left. After the room returned to silence, Pang Zhijing sat on the bed alone with her legs crossed. The bell on her ankle made a crisp sound with her movements. She reached out to stroke the exquisite bell and sighed softly. The more beautiful something is, the more poisonous it is. This is true for both the bell and the person. She thought of Xiao Ho's deceptive gentleness and elegance. She slapped the bed angrily. "What if he doesn't give me the key after the mission is completed?" she muttered worriedly. Her fingers unconsciously touched the bell. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Could she ask Chu Qingyan for help? The goddess was so powerful, like an omnipotent god. If the goddess could help her unlock the bell, she would not be controlled by others. If Xiao Ho went back on his word, she could escape. Thinking of this, she could not wait to see the goddess. In the Moon Palace. "Consort, you received a letter from the Fu family early in the morning. It was about Fu Anlai, her brother." She pinched the letter in her hand angrily. "Anlai is so stupid this time." At such a critical moment, such a scandal was exposed. It was very unfavorable for Ranner. Investigate for me. Find out who dared to plot against our Fu clan. I'll definitely make him beg for death." Consort Yu's vicious voice fell and someone left to carry out the order. In the Chaoyang Palace. Empress Liang slapped the table. Her expression was distorted. Chu Qingyan, that unruly wench, spread such a terrible rumor with Xiao Ran. It is a slap to the Liang family's face. Luo Yun stepped forward and said, "Miss Chu is too much. She should take a look at her own status. How can she be so close to the fourth prince?" At this moment, a guard suddenly came to report. "Your Highness, His Royal Highness plotted against the eldest young master of the Fu family because of Miss Chu's kidnapping." Empress Liang was stunned. "What is going on?" The guard immediately reported the matter in full detail. Empress Liang was very happy that the Fu family had been involved in such a big scandal. She had vented her anger. But when she thought about how this was caused by Chu Qingyan, it was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. Usually, when she asked Su to deal with the Fu family, it went in one ear and out the other. Now that he was so angry because of Chu Qingyan, it was not only because he did not care about her as his mother, but also because Chu Qingyan had affected him to this extent. It was very bad. She felt as if the son she had raised was out of her control. Chu Qingyan can't be left alive. Empress Liang said gloomily. Chapter 1143. The news about Fu Anlai spread like wildfire among the commoners. Those who knew the inside story all secretly applauded. Chu Qingyan did not think that her big ice block would be able to easily make him lose his footing in the capital without wasting a single soldier or breaking any of his limbs. Although this move was not proper, it was simply satisfying to give him a taste of his own medicine. Not only did it help her vent her anger, it also helped to take revenge for those girls who were ruined by Fu Anlai. Therefore, there was no need to reason with evil people. However, for Chu Qingyan and Xiao Lai-chi, there was another very exciting news today. That was, the wood spirit had returned from the Fuli mountain range. After not seeing him for half a year, Chu Qingyan missed him very much. Especially her father. When he saw him today, he gave him a bear hug and then clamored for the wood spirit to make a lot of dolls for him. The wood spirit was so scared that he immediately went into his master's study and still hadn't come out. It was simply laughable. After lunch, Big Ice Block had something to discuss with the wood spirit. Chu Qingyan went to the guest room alone. She had just sat down when Hua Xioli arrived. Why does it seem like you're more attentive than me when it comes to entertaining the Southern Blue Princess? Chu Qingyan looked at her friend who was in high spirits and couldn't help but tease. Hearing this, Hua Xioli sat down beside her and propped up her chin. There's no other way. People like me who come from a commoner background rarely get to see a foreign princess, so I took this opportunity to broaden my horizons. Moreover, having more friends means more opportunities. Who knows, we might even be able to promote our products internationally. Don't you think so? Sometimes she really admired her business brain. However, she had to admit that her friend had outstanding talent in business. Then, Big Boss, is everything ready? She smiled and teased. Don't worry, they're all top-quality goods. They won't embarrass you. After Hua Xiao finished speaking, she clapped her hands and a servant came up with a tray. On the tray were 2 exquisite boxes. Chu Qingyan took them and looked at them. Toner and powder. Not bad, not bad. I believe these 2 new products will sell well in the capital. Of course. Which of the products you designed isn't top-notch? Hua Xiao praised him as if his mouth was smeared with honey. Chu Qingyan couldn't help laughing. But at this time, someone sent a message saying that the Southern Blue Princess had arrived. She immediately gave the order to welcome him in. Before inviting Pang Zhijing to the residence, she had already discussed it with the Big Ice Cube. Although the Big Ice Cube didn't approve of her having a close relationship with Pang Zhijing, after the incident with Fu Anlai, the Big Ice Cube no longer opposed it. In addition, the rumors were spreading everywhere. After finding out that the mastermind was Xiao Ho, she discussed it with the Big Ice Cube to see which side the Southern Blue Princess was on through this invitation. If it was a friend, then everyone would be happy. If it was an enemy, then after thanking each other and returning the favor, they would go their separate ways. As soon as Pang Zhijing entered the door, she couldn't take her eyes off the decorations in the residence. Her eyes were filled with envy. When she came yesterday, her thoughts were different from today. She came in a hurry and left in a hurry, so she didn't pay attention. Today, she could finally enjoy the place where her goddess lived. After walking for a while, the group arrived at the guest hall. As soon as she stepped into the hall, she saw the person sitting at the head of the table stand up to welcome her. She was radiant and beautiful. She was indeed her goddess. Seeing Pang Zhijing's eyes staring at her without hiding her admiration, Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and smiled. She greeted, "It's our honor that the princess was invited here today." As soon as Chu Qingyan finished speaking, Pang Zhijing immediately put away her drooling expression and said seriously, "The King Consort of England is too polite. It's my honor to be invited here." Hua Xioli stood at the side and glanced. When the two finished their conversation, she couldn't help but interrupt. All right, you don't have to be so courteous. My ears are buzzing. Come, Princess Nansong, I am Hua Xiaoli, Qingyan's friend and also a victim of yesterday's incident. We invited you here today to thank you for lending a helping hand when you saw injustice. This is a small token of our appreciation. Please don't be polite and accept it. Hua Xiaoli was a merchant and a good judge of character. She knew that Pang Zhijing wasn't the kind of person who put on airs, so she straightforwardly explained her intentions. Moreover, she naturally offered a gift of thanks. Her words were watertight, making it impossible for others to refuse. Only then did Pang Zhijing see Hua Xiaoli. She realized that birds of a feather flock together. The women by her goddess side were all peerless beauties. Moreover, they had straightforward personalities. Pang Zhijing liked them very much, so she didn't stand on ceremony and asked the maid to put it away. Aren't you going to open it and take a look? Seeing that she ordered the maid to accept it, Chu Qingyan asked with a smile. Pang Zhijing laughed mischievously. When we go back, I'll take a good look. It's rare for us to come out, so we shouldn't waste time on it. We should cherish it. Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiaoli looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with admiration for Pang Zhijing. A woman's topic would never be separated from clothes, food, and beautiful scenery. The three of them chatted for more than 2 hours. Each of them wanted to continue, as if they regretted not having met earlier. However, at this time, because something happened in the shop, Hua Xiaoli had to go out to deal with it. Before she left, she reluctantly invited Pang Zhijing to her shop to play when she had time. Pang Zhijing readily agreed. After Hua Xiaoli left, only the two of them were left in the hall. Pang Zhijing looked around. The two maids beside her kept staring at her. There were some words in her heart that she didn't know how to say to her goddess. Just as she was secretly troubled, Chu Qingyan spoke. A grape was transplanted in the courtyard. I wonder if Princess would be interested in taking a look? Pang Zhijing's eyes lit up when she heard that. She immediately nodded. Okay. Chu Qingyan smiled slightly. She stood up and ordered Jasper and Xining beside her. You don't need to follow me. Go and prepare some pastries. Pang Zhijing also followed suit and said to the two maids. Although the two maids wanted to follow, they could only reluctantly agree because Chu Qingyan was present. Pang Zhijing walked beside Chu Qingyan. She turned her head to look at her exquisite side profile. She was puzzled. Did you deliberately send those servants away? Chu Qingyan turned her eyes and chuckled. Didn't Princess have something to say to me? It's not good for you to speak with outsiders around, so I helped you to lead them away. You can actually tell that I have something to say to you? Pang Zhijing was surprised. Chu Qingyan smiled but didn't say anything. After Hua Xiaoli left, the little princess's eyes began to drift. Her eyes revealed anxiety, but because of the presence of the maids, she could only endure it. She couldn't stand it anymore, so she sent them away. Princess, do you have any difficulties? She asked. At this time, they had already walked to a secluded place in the garden. Hua Xiaoli's expression suddenly became serious. Consort King of England, I have a request. Chapter 1144. Pang Zhijing's words were out of her expectations, but she still maintained her calm exterior. Princess, please speak. If there is anything I can help with, I will definitely not refuse. Chu Qingyan gave her promise. With her goddess's words, Pang Zhijing felt that even if she could not achieve her goal, she was still very grateful. At this time, Chu Qingyan saw Pang Zhijing look around and then find a place to sit down. Then she pulled up her skirt to reveal a white protrusion. Chu Qingyan was still a bit confused. But at this time, she saw Pang Zhijing untie the cloth around her ankle from behind. After pulling away the cloth, an exquisite bell anklet was revealed. It really is a beautiful bell anklet. Chu Qingyan was not stingy with her praise. Hearing this, Pang Zhijing smiled bitterly. It is beautiful, but it can't be untied. What do you mean? Chu Qingyan had a puzzled expression. For a moment, Pang Zhijing wanted to tell her the truth. But in Xiao Ho's plan, the targets were Xiao Su and her. She did not know how to say it. In the end, she chose to hide the truth. Before I came to Sichuan, I received this bell anklet. I was very curious, so I put it on. But later, when I wanted to take it off, I found that it needs a key to open. I really don't like this kind of bell that seems to be worn by cats or dogs, so I want to ask you to see if there is a reliable craftsman who can help me open this bell anklet. When she said this, she unconsciously carried a tone of attachment. In front of Chu Qingyan, she didn't know why she would develop a feeling of dependence. It was like the trust a younger sister had for her older sister. Chu Qingyan could feel from the subtle changes on her face that her words were not trustworthy. But she felt that she had something that was hard to say, so she pretended not to know and did not probe further. This is a coincidence. Our Wang Fu has a craftsman who is very good at opening locks. He came back today. I will have him take a look for you. She thought of the wood spirit. As she spoke, she called for a servant to pass on the message and have the wood spirit leave the study and come here. Pang Jijing listened to her goddess's instructions and was very happy. Because the wood spirit had something important to discuss with the big ice cube, she didn't come over so quickly. At this time, they sat down in the courtyard and waited. Pang Jijing looked at the gentlewoman in front of her and couldn't help but blurt out, "Consort King of England, I really envy you." Chu Qingyan asked in confusion, "What are you jealous of me for?" Pang Jijing sighed softly. "I envy your freedom, your intelligence, and your beauty. I envy that you have such a devoted fiancé. You don't know how gloomy the King of England looked yesterday. It was as if he wanted to cut me into pieces. It's scary just thinking about it. But I can see that he really cares about you and is very sincere." Chu Qingyan was a little surprised. She actually heard such words from the mouth of a country's princess, and it was not pretentious at all. She could tell that it came from the heart. "Princess, you're also very good. Actually, in our hearts, there's always a kind of you. It's always better than us. You don't have to be too envious." Pang Jijing nodded. "You're right, but I really envy you. Of course, there's only envy, no jealousy or hatred. When I first saw you, I felt that you looked very familiar, as if there was no sense of unfamiliarity. It didn't seem like it was the first time we met." Chu Qingyan tilted her head and smiled. "To be honest, I feel the same way. Perhaps this is what they call fate." Pang Jijing was delighted to hear that. "Yes, it's fate. I didn't believe in fate before, but now I have no choice but to believe. Otherwise, she wouldn't have appeared in this era." At this point, she suddenly thought of something and the playful smile on her face faded. "Consort King of England, I have something to ask of you. No need to be so polite. Please ask." Chu Qingyan had already begun to get used to her playful and serious attitude. At this moment, she replied gently. Pang Jijing took a deep breath, then opened her eyes and looked at her. She said word by word, "If you're in deep danger, saving your life is already an extravagant hope. Will you still pursue freedom?" Although she was a little surprised by her question, Chu Qingyan still gave her a definite answer after serious consideration. "I don't know if you've heard of this saying before. Life is precious, but love is even more valuable. If it's for freedom, both can be abandoned." These words sounded very familiar to Pang Jijing, but she couldn't remember it for a while. She only felt that what she said was very reasonable and vaguely had an answer in her heart. At this moment, she met Chu Qingyan's curious gaze and immediately smiled mischievously. "Don't take it to heart. I'm just such a person who likes to let her imagination run wild." Looking at the person in front of her who was joking around, although Chu Qingyan felt strange, she didn't ask. Prying into other people's privacy wasn't her hobby. At this moment, Mu Ling arrived. "Little princess consort, do you need this subordinate for something?" Mu Ling asked curiously. Chu Qingyan smiled and explained the matter clearly. Then she pointed at Pang Jijing. "This is the Southern Blue Princess. Help her see if you can undo the chain." Mu Ling nodded at Pang Jijing and then said, "Excuse me." Then she looked at the chain on her ankle. "This?" Mu Ling revealed a surprised expression. "Is there a problem?" Chu Qingyan asked with a raised brow. Mu Ling turned to the two and said, "This bell chain isn't a normal chain. It's called the exquisite lock. also known as the 7 orifices exquisite lock. It has 7 keyholes and requires 7 keys to open it. This 7 orifices exquisite lock also has a compass. The direction that the compass points to is the location of the exquisite lock. Chu Qingyan was surprised. There was actually something like a locator in the ancient times. She couldn't help but admire the brains and intelligence of the ancient people. At the side, Pang Jijing nodded in her heart. This craftsman was indeed amazing. No wonder he was recommended by the goddess. This 7 orifices exquisite lock has been lost for nearly 100 years. I didn't expect it to appear on the princess. There's also a story about this exquisite lock. Mu Ling said. Tell me about it. Chu Qingyan was attracted and couldn't help but ask. Yes, the wood spirit slowly said, the person who made this chain is a famous craftsman. Because his wife has a poor sense of direction and often gets lost, the craftsman spent 8 years to make this exquisite lock. The purpose is that he can find his wife anytime and anywhere. In the end, it was called a testimony of deep love. After it was passed down, it became a token of love. Chu Qingyan sighed. It's really amazing. It's a romantic story. Although it was strange for Pang Jijing to be chained with the exquisite lock, she had to admit that this story was very moving. When Pang Jijing heard it, she felt that it was quite romantic. However, when it was used on her and Xiao Ho, it felt a little strange. Although the story is very beautiful, it's not convenient to wear it. Can you help me unlock it? Pang Jijing anxiously asked. If this exquisite lock could be unlocked, then she could regain her freedom. Chapter 1145. As a fierce steed, Wood Spirit had long developed an air of arrogance by Xiao Su's side. Little Consort had only asked him to help look at Pang Jijing's bell anklet and had no other orders. In addition, he was dissatisfied with Nan Song, so when Pang Jijing made her request, he acted as if it had nothing to do with him and had no intention of responding. Chu Qingyan sensed that Pang Jijing's mood was not right and was very anxious. She thought for a moment and turned to ask Wood Spirit, Wood Spirit, do you have any ideas? Now that the young princess had spoken, Mu Ling finally faced this problem seriously. However, his expression was a little troubled. This 7 apertures exquisite lock only has one original set of keys. It's very difficult to reconfigure it. Back then, in order to make this exquisite lock beautiful and become an exquisite piece of jewelry, he put a lot of effort into the 7 keyholes. As a result, other than the artisan himself, no one was able to open it. This was also to ensure his wife's safety. Chu Qingyan turned and, as expected, she saw Pang Jijing's disappointed expression. She sighed softly. This craftsman made this exquisite lock for protection with ingenuity, but in the end, it became someone else's shackle. The former is romantic, the latter is dismal. Pang Jijing pursed her lips. Then what do I do? I can't wear this anklet for the rest of my life, right? It makes jingling sounds when it walks, just like a pet. Chu Qingyan snorted at this analogy. Pang Jijing and Water Spirit gave her an aggrieved look. It was indeed a bit unkind to laugh when someone was in pain. Chu Qingyan retracted her smile and said to Wood Spirit, if you're here to reconfigure it, how many days will it take? Pang Jijing, who was drawing circles in the corner, immediately widened her eyes. Didn't you say it was difficult? Does this gentleman have a way? Chu Qingyan looked at Wood Spirit with a smile. Just now, the Wood Spirit had only said that it was difficult to configure, not that it was impossible. Furthermore, with her understanding of the Wood Spirit, this jewel lock was not a problem for him. It was a challenge and he loved to solve this kind of problem. She was not wrong. When he saw the jewel lock just now, his eyes burned with passion. Although it was only for a moment, she still caught it. Mu Ling rubbed the back of his head and laughed mischievously. It's still the little princess who understands this subordinate. Although it's difficult, it's not impossible. You just need to give this subordinate some time. Pang Jijing's eyes lit up and she immediately asked, how many days do you need? The Wood Spirit didn't even bother to answer her question. Chu Qingyan also noticed this and repeated Pang Jijing's words. The Wood Spirit then replied, Making the model of the key will only take 3 days. But the problem is that this exquisite lock is very sturdy. It needs to be polished into a key with a very hard material. Otherwise, once it is inserted, it will easily break inside. Then, it will be impossible to open this chain. This craftsman's mind is really meticulous. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but praise. Pang Jijing, who was at the side, bit on a small handkerchief and cried. The wood spirit continued, so the most difficult part is to find this material. But coincidentally, this subordinate found a material in Lian City last year. It's very suitable. If we hurry and have someone send it over, it might take half a month. Chu Qingyan heard this and turned to look at the young girl beside her. It might take a while. Can you accept that? Pang Jijing was very touched and nodded repeatedly. No problem. Chu Qingyan smiled at the wood spirit. All right, then I'll leave this matter to you. The wood spirit accepted the order. Then let this subordinate first make a copy of the keyhole. After speaking, he went to prepare the tools. Looking at the wood spirit's departing figure, Pang Jijing revealed a look of adoration. Goddess, you're so amazing. You have so many talented people by your side. After speaking, she suddenly realized her slip of the tongue and immediately waved her hand to explain. I didn't mean anything else. I really like friends like you. Chu Qingyan looked at her girlish appearance and couldn't help but laugh. I also like little girls like you. Pang Jijing rubbed her head embarrassedly and laughed foolishly. Consort of the King of England, if there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely make friends with you. After the wood spirit made a copy of the keyhole and she sent someone to escort Pang Jijing out of the residence, she repeatedly thought about Pang Jijing's words. There seemed to be something wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. What a strange girl. After Pang Jijing left the King of England's residence, she turned back to look at the long walkway with a faint melancholy expression. Now that she had an agreement with Xiao Ho to defeat Xiao Su, she couldn't be friends with her goddess. She had to wait until everything was settled and she broke away from Xiao Ho. Only then would she have the right to stand beside her goddess and beg for her forgiveness. Only then would she have the right to be her friend. With this thought in mind, she heaved a sigh of relief and jumped into the carriage. The bell on her feet rang crisply because of her movements. She sat down on the couch and lifted the corner of her skirt. Looking at the bell, she harumphed. Very soon, I'll take you down and let you be proud for a few more days. After saying that, she lowered the corner of her skirt and leaned against the wall of the carriage, closing her eyes to rest. The carriage traveled for a while and suddenly stopped. Pang Jijing opened her eyes in confusion. At this time, someone outside the carriage said, "Princess, someone knocked over something in front. There's a traffic jam and we need to wait for a while." She lifted the curtain and waved her hand to the attendant to indicate that there was no hurry. At this time, she looked out of the window. There were many shops on both sides of the carriage and it was very bustling. She looked at them with great interest. I heard that the palace is going to hold a banquet tomorrow night. It will definitely be very lively. Yes, I'm afraid that we won't have the chance to enter the palace in this lifetime. I really want to go and take a look. The discussion drifted into her ears and she was stunned. She had actually forgotten such an important matter. She remembered that Xiao Ho had told her that the Sichuan emperor would help her choose a marriage partner based on her choice at the palace banquet. What he meant was for her to choose Xiao Su. Chu Qingyan's gentle and beautiful face suddenly flashed in front of her eyes. She couldn't help but clench her fingers. How could she put her goddess in a difficult situation? Her goddess had helped her so much, how could she repay her kindness with enmity? She couldn't do such a thing. But on Xiao Ho's side, at this time, the maid outside the carriage said, "Princess, if you feel bored, you can open the gift that Miss Chu gave you to pass the time." Pang Jijing's thoughts were interrupted by the maid. At this time, her gaze turned to the box placed on the small coffee table. She couldn't help but reach out to open it. She saw that there were 2 small boxes in bright yellow satin. She opened them one by one. Each of them contained a small porcelain bottle made of white jade. It was cold and comfortable to touch. Her anxious mood dissipated. She smiled and opened one of the small porcelain bottles. When she poured out a little liquid and put it to her nose to smell, her expression suddenly stiffened. How could it be? Chapter 1146. After sending Pang Zhijing off, Chu Qingyan walked towards her own courtyard. Once she entered the room, she saw the person sitting there. She couldn't help but raise her brows with a smile. Why didn't anyone tell me that you were here? They should be used to my appearance. Xiao Su raised his brows at her. She couldn't help curling her lips. He spoke as if he was the owner of this place. But strictly speaking, the entire palace was his, so he didn't lack this courtyard. Why did you come to my place? She sat down across from him and naturally took the teacup he handed over. She took a sip to relieve the dryness in her throat. When that southern song princess came today, you were so busy that I couldn't even see your shadow. Even I don't have this kind of treatment. Although his words were calm, she felt that there was a hint of jealousy in them. Hey, Big Ice Cube, the other party is a girl. What are you thinking? He really didn't differentiate between men and women when he was jealous. However, her heart was filled with happiness. What was going on here? Occupying your time, your person. Male or female, what's the difference? Xiao Su gave a snort. Good. You're right. Then wouldn't I have to follow you closely in the future before you're satisfied? She propped up her chin with one hand and tilted her head to tease him. Who would have thought that he would take it seriously? That's a good idea. You can't do that. She puffed up her cheeks in protest. This kind of Chu Qingyan, where was the dignified and virtuous person she was in front of Pang Zhijing? This was how she should be at her age, how she should be pampered. Xiao Su chuckled and rubbed her head. How was your talk with that southern song princess today? Seeing her return, she seemed to be quite happy, so he asked. He actually changed the topic. She glared at him and began to speak unhurriedly. She's pretty good. I still think she's a good girl. Nan Song country invaded us before, and it's quite hateful, but that doesn't mean that everyone there is guilty of the most heinous crimes. Just like Xixian, there are also evil people, but not all of them are good. You're even saying good things for her? Xiao Su wasn't targeting Pang Zhijing as a person, but he felt that his little fellow's attention had been diverted by someone else. His heart's possessiveness immediately came online. Chu Qingyan held back her laughter in her heart. The Big Ice Cube was too cute when he was jealous. It's true. After she finished speaking, her expression turned serious. But, Big Ice Cube, I made a discovery today. Oh? What is it? Xiao Su was interested. Chu Qingyan immediately said, I think Princess Pang might be under someone's control. Xiao Su frowned. What do you mean? When she came to the prince's mansion today, I saw that she had a lot on her mind and sent everyone away. Only then did she dare to tell me about her request. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is that she has a chain on her leg. It looks very exquisite, but it's actually a tool that can be monitored. She wants me to ask someone to help her remove it, so to neutralize the above 2 points, I think that she's being controlled by someone else. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come to me. After all, she's a princess. Chu Qingyan slowly explained her analysis. As Xiao Su listened, he slowly frowned. If what you said is true, then she came to Sichuan with a purpose. Or rather, the person behind her wants her to complete some kind of mission. She shook her head. I also don't know. But I feel that this girl's nature isn't bad. From yesterday's information, I can see that. My intuition tells me that she really wants my help. Xiao Su knew that she pitied this Pang Zhijing. It was rare to see her with friends, so he loved the house and its crow. He couldn't help but put his hand on the back of her hand and comforted her. I'll have Water Spirit pay close attention to this matter. But because there are too many people watching the Southern Heavens Envoy group, it won't be too fast to find out the news. Chu Qingyan nodded heavily. With the Big Ice Cube's words, she was relieved. The reason why she had such a strong desire to protect her was because today, that pair of water spirit's eyes revealed reliance and caution, which moved her heart. This matter was temporarily put to rest. That's right, why did Mu Ling suddenly return to the capital? She was very curious about this matter. Xiao Su folded his hands on the table. Because of her words, his expression became slightly restrained. There are some situations in the mountains. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to explain clearly in the letter, so he made a trip here. The mountains he was referring to were the Fuli mountain range. She nodded. Regarding that place, they indeed had to be cautious. Just as she was about to ask what had happened, Xining walked in with a smile and said that the kitchen had already prepared dinner. She asked if she wanted to bring it up. She nodded her head and forgot to continue asking. At this time, what she didn't know was that on the busy streets of the capital, there was a person who, because of her and the gift in her sleeve, fell into a state of shock, rage, and pleasant surprise. Pang Jijing sniffed the sparkling liquid again and again in disbelief. Only in the end was she able to convince herself that this was a modern toner. This fragrance was too familiar, because she had an older sister who loved to dress her up. Her older sister's hobby was to dress her up in all kinds of ways. In the end, even with her eyes closed, she could still smell the fragrance, which brand, and what it was used for. What shocked her was, why would such a modern thing appear in ancient times? Then she thought that if she could transmigrate, so could others. Thus, she went berserk. In the end, she guessed that the transmigrator might be by her side. Goddess? In her sleeve? Or someone else? But no matter what, she suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. No matter if she was a good person or a bad person, she was still someone from the same world as her. Thus, she was pleasantly surprised. Soon, she opened another box and poured a little into her palm. It was talcum powder. Wow, this thing was too useful, especially in this hot summer. She became more and more excited. She wanted to immediately return to the King of England's residence and ask the goddess who made this thing. Could it be her? However, reality quickly knocked her down, because the bell on her ankle was ringing, warning her that she was still not free. She looked dejected. No, she had to get her freedom immediately. Tomorrow was the palace banquet. She didn't want to scheme against the King of England and the goddess with Xiao. Thus, she couldn't wait for half a month with the wood spirits. Then what should she do? She hugged the two boxes and fell into a daze. At the same time, the crowd dispersed and the carriage began to move. Her gaze followed the carriage and fell on the street outside. Suddenly, a shop entered her line of sight. A medicine shop. She blinked and suddenly sat up straight. She had an idea. She immediately shouted, "Stop the carriage." Chapter 1147. Creak. The carriage stopped at the sound. "Princess, is there something you need?" the attendant asked with a slight headache. Ever since this princess entered the Sichuan palace and left the Lord's watch, she had an endless stream of tricks to torment people. He didn't know what she was up to this time. This attendant's guess was correct. Pang Jijing was indeed up to some tricks. At this time, Pang Jijing lifted the curtain and jumped out of the carriage, ignoring the obstruction of others. "Princess, where are you going?" A group of guards immediately blocked her path. Pang Jijing cursed inwardly. She was too impulsive just now and ran down without thinking clearly. How was she going to smooth things over? Seeing the princess's eyes darting around, everyone instantly felt bad. The princess was up to no good again. "Princess, let's go back." Before the attendant finished speaking, she was interrupted. "I'm not feeling well and want to buy some medicine." Pang Jijing suddenly clutched her stomach with a painful expression and cried out in pain. Everyone's scalps tightened. The attendant hurriedly said, "Then let's hurry back to the relay station and have them send an imperial physician to take a look at you." Pang Jijing's eyes narrowed. By the time we return to the relay station and have an imperial physician come, this princess might already be dead. All right, are you deliberately making things difficult for me because you see that this princess is not feeling well? No, this servant's subordinates wouldn't dare. Everyone immediately begged for mercy with a bitter smile. Pang Jijing thought that these people were all amenable to force but not persuasion. Thus, she angrily glared at them. "The pharmacy is in front. Why aren't you helping me to see a physician?" No one dared to disobey this time. They could only crowd around her and walk into the pharmacy. Because she threatened not to reveal her identity, the attendants could only guard outside and have the attendant accompany her in. As soon as she entered the pharmacy, a young medicine boy came up to greet her. Pang Jijing had him arrange a highly skilled physician for her, and she was quickly arranged to see a physician. "You stay here. I'll call you if I need anything. Don't make trouble for me," Pang Jijing said coldly. The maidservant had probably never seen Pang Jijing like this before and was a little frightened. Although she was unwilling in front of so many people, Pang Jijing was the master and she was the servant. She could not overstep her position and could only watch as Pang Jijing walked towards the doctor. However, she thought that as long as Pang Jijing was under her nose, Pang Jijing would not be able to escape. Pang Jijing glanced back and chuckled. This was the result she wanted. Suddenly, "Miss, your pulse is stable and your complexion is rosy. Your body is very healthy. This old man can't see what's wrong with you." An old doctor frowned as he stroked his beard. "Of course this princess is in good health. She wasn't sick. Sir, I'm not the one who's sick. It's someone else." Her face immediately changed into a bitter look. The old doctor was puzzled. Then, "It's my husband. He's always outside and not at home. I haven't seen him for more than half a month. However, my mother-in-law is always scowling at me because I haven't given birth to a child. I'm so bitter. My husband finally came back today and I see that he's going to leave again. I'm very scared and want him to stay with me. Otherwise, my mother-in-law will marry a concubine for him." The more she spoke, the more heartbroken she was. Anyone who heard it would be sad and shed tears. He had seen too many women like this. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be surprised. However, the woman in front of him was so young and looked so water-spirit. She was about the same age as his granddaughter. The old doctor couldn't help but be moved by her. He felt pity in his heart. "Then how does Miss want this old man to help you?" She used a handkerchief to wipe the tears that didn't exist at the corner of her eyes. "I came today to ask for a medicine that can let my husband stay at home for one night and not go out to fool around." It was not easy to make up a story. It used up a lot of her brain cells and she was running out of words. Medicine to stay at home? The old doctor's expression was a little strange. She immediately nodded and whispered, "It's that kind of..." "What kind?" The old doctor was not sure. He felt that his guest didn't match the water spirit in front of him. How could this old doctor not understand? Pang Jijing was a little anxious. "It's the kind of medicine that can't leave the house." The old doctor immediately nodded sneakily. Okay, this old man understands. Wait a moment, this old man will go down and get the medicine for you." Pang Jijing watched the old doctor's vigorous figure leave and heaved a sigh of relief. He finally understood that what she wanted was knockout medicine. However, the ideal was very plump, but the reality was very bony. The old doctor walked to the back and said to his disciple, "Get a medicine for aphrodisiac. Add a bit more medicine and a bit of enchanted grass." Enchanted grass? The disciple was stunned. Wasn't that an aphrodisiac grass? As long as a man ate it, he wouldn't be able to control himself. The old doctor immediately waved his hand. Go. Who knows, maybe you can become a pair of mandarin ducks today." After saying that, the old doctor walked out with his hands behind his back and his eyes narrowed with a smile. When Pang Jijing walked out of the medicine shop with the medicine in her arms, the old doctor also smiled and watched her leave. He sighed in his heart that today's weather was really good. The maidservant looked at the medicine in her hand and couldn't help but wonder, "Princess, what medicine did the doctor show you?" "Oh, he said that the weather is too hot and I'm a little hot-tempered, so he prescribed me some medicine to clear heat and detoxify. It's not a big deal." She pretended that she didn't see the maidservant's hand that reached out to take the medicine. She nimbly climbed into the carriage and ordered, "It's still early. Let's go to Prince Yi's estate." Everyone looked at the setting sun in the west and collectively felt speechless. It was still early? However, considering the relationship between their lord and this princess, no one objected. They turned the carriage around and headed to another street. Pang Jijing hugged the medicine as if it was a treasure. The corner of her mouth rose. "Xiao, tonight I'll let you know what it's like to sleep to death. I don't believe that I can't get that key back tonight. Let's wait and see." Tonight, It would be unknown who would be the one to wait and see. In the mountain behind the inner courtyard of the King of England's estate, a red figure appeared in the afterglow of the setting sun. It was obvious that the figure was delicate and beautiful. However, when she spoke, her tone was a little impatient. "Don't you know that I've been watched closely recently? How dare you ask me out? Tell me what's the matter?" A person stood in the shadow of a tree. He didn't show much emotion after hearing what she said. He still had a businesslike attitude. "Master said that Chu Qingyan doesn't need to be kept anymore. He wants you to get rid of her as soon as possible." As he spoke, the person took out a bottle from his sleeve and threw it to her. "This is the palace's secret medicine. One drop can end a life. Master said that you can only succeed, not fail." With that, the person disappeared. Hong Yi opened the bottle in her hand. The porcelain bottle lay quietly in the palm of her hand. It seemed that the Empress couldn't tolerate Chu Qingyan anymore. She was in a good mood and smiled insidiously. "Chu Qingyan, oh Chu Qingyan, let's see who can save you this time." Chapter 1148. Although she already got the medicine, Pang Jijing didn't have a proper plan because of the lack of time. She was completely relying on her impulsive courage to control her actions. Therefore, when she arrived at Prince Yi's estate, her mind suddenly went blank. How was she going to explain her sudden arrival when she saw Xiao Ho later? Also, how was she going to make him fall into her trap? She didn't have a plan. She was really reckless. However, time was tight. Tomorrow was the palace banquet. Tonight was her only chance. No matter what, she had to give it a try. With the thought of facing death unflinchingly, she got off the carriage with a strong sense of righteousness. She felt that every step she took weighed 1,000 pounds. Others didn't know what she was thinking. They only saw that she was looking forward to meeting their lord. Countless question marks appeared above their heads. Could it be that this southern song princess had taken a fancy to their lord? This wasn't impossible. Pang Jijing naturally didn't know what they were thinking and couldn't care less. However, if she knew what they were thinking, she would probably bleed 3 liters of blood. What the hell? She and Xiao Ho were enemies. They were irreconcilable. As soon as she entered, she was told that Xiao Ho was receiving guests and asked to wait for a while. This was exactly what she wanted. At least she had some time to figure out what to do. Pang Jijing pretended to be nonchalant, but her heart was surging with waves because she couldn't find a way to drug him. Soon, someone served tea. "Your Highness, please enjoy." Pang Jijing waved her hand and the person withdrew. Suddenly, her gaze fell on the tea beside her hand. She blinked. "Got it. I left a jade pendant in the carriage. Quickly go and help me find it." She lied through her teeth and sent her maid away. The maid couldn't remember when the princess had a jade pendant, but she still obeyed her orders. This way, she was the only one left in the drawing room. There were 2 servants guarding the door, but they didn't pose a threat to her. She took out the small medicine packets hidden in her sleeves. The old doctor seemed to be worried that she wouldn't have enough, so he specially packed a few small packets for her. He even said, "Buy 1 get 3 free." What a great person! With a sneaky smile, she opened the medicine packet and carefully shook the powder into the tea. Then, she immediately put it away and looked around to make sure that no one had seen her actions. Thus, she let out a long sigh and leaned against the back of the chair, quietly waiting for Xiao Ho to arrive. After about 15 minutes, she heard the sound of footsteps. Logically speaking, someone like Xiao Ho, who was highly skilled in martial arts, should be able to walk without making a sound. But because of his usual disguise, his footsteps were like a normal person's, so it was not strange for Pang Jijing to hear them. Hearing the footsteps getting closer and closer, Pang Jijing swallowed her saliva, feeling nervous and expectant. The fat sheep was about to enter the door. Where should she start slaughtering them later? Xiao Ho quickly appeared at the door. He looked straight ahead as he walked in. Then he sat down at the head of the table and slowly said, "It's so late. For the princess to grace my humble abode, what business do you have?" This clearly showed that he didn't care about her at all. Pang Jijing's heart was filled with anger, But when she thought about how she would be able to do whatever she wanted to him, she swallowed this anger down. "Can't I come find you if I don't have any business?" She casually replied. "Is that so? But is this king's relationship with the princess so good that we can move around at any time?" Xiao said with a faint smile, but the meaning in his words was enough to choke a person to death. "I'll endure it." Pang Jijing stood up with a fake smile and picked up the teacup on the table. Then she walked over to Xiao and stopped under Xiao's suspicious gaze. "I know you're angry with me. I thought about it all night when I went back and knew that I didn't listen to you, causing you to lose a chance to attack Xiao Su. I feel very guilty, but I don't know how to express my apology, so I came here today to apologize. This tea is my apology to you." She bent down and placed the teacup in front of him. Xiao raised his brows as he looked at her. It was rare for him to be so obedient, but this teacup, this tea, they are all from this king's palace. Using this to apologize, isn't that too insincere? Hearing him make things difficult for her, she already had a plan to deal with it. Her voice became even more sincere. "I know this is a bit of borrowing flowers to offer Buddha, but isn't sincerity the most important thing in an apology? I sincerely feel that I was wrong. As long as you accept my apology, I will fully cooperate with you in the following plan and will not cause you any trouble." Xiao stared at her and after a while he slowly said, "Are you serious?" "More serious than a pearl." She almost raised her hand to swear to the moon. Xiao finally nodded and took the teacup from her hand. He was about to put it into his mouth, but he stopped when he saw Pang Jijing's expectant look. "What's wrong?" Pang Jijing was incomparably worried. "Don't cause any trouble. The tea is a bit cold. Have a servant change it." After saying this, Xiao prepared to call for someone. "What's the use of changing the tea?" Pang Jijing quickly reached out to stop him and anxiously explained, "How can it be the same if you change the tea? This cup is filled with my apology. If you change it, how can it still be the same?" Xiao nodded, "You're right." She then heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao was about to put it into his mouth again, but stopped when it was at his lips. Pang Jijing covered her little heart. "Big brother, you can't affect my heartbeat like this. Since you're the one who handed the tea over, if there's a problem, then you can't run away." Xiao suddenly smiled and said to her unhurriedly as if he was joking. However, she was really shocked. This person couldn't have really seen through her, right? Just as her heart was in a mess, Xiao smiled and drank the cup of tea. Pang Jijing let out a long sigh of relief. She finally drank the tea and could be at ease. "What are you thinking about?" he suddenly said. His voice was very close, as if he was speaking right next to her ear. She turned her head and was shocked. "How did you get so close to me without making a sound?" Xiao shrugged. "You seem to be very nervous. I was just joking with you." "You're the nervous one." She raised her voice to hide the panic in her heart. Xiao smiled but did not say anything. She did not want to argue with him. She remembered that the old doctor said that the medicine would only take effect after the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Then she could not let him stay here. Otherwise, when he fainted, the guards by his side would capture her. "It's so boring here. Let's go to your courtyard. I remember that you have a few paintings hanging in your room. I like them a lot, so let's go take a look." She blinked her eyes as she discussed with him. Xiao stared at her face for a while, making her heart feel weak. Only then did he slowly say, "Since the princess is interested, then how could this king not agree? Princess, this way please." Hearing this, Pang Jijing was overjoyed. Although Xiao seemed a little strange today, in order to get the key, she did not care about anything else. He had already drunk the medicine, so it should be safe. Chapter 1149. Pang Jijing followed behind Xiao and slowly walked towards the courtyard from before. At this time, her palms were sweating. She tightly clenched her fists and didn't dare to breathe loudly. She nervously looked around. Xiao, who was in front, suddenly stopped. Pang Jijing, who had been nervous, bumped into his back. She was a bit stunned as she rubbed her head. Her heart was pounding, but her mouth was unforgiving as she said, "Do you know how to walk? How can you stop just because you want to? You didn't even make a sound." Xiao Ho turned around and crossed his arms as he coldly looked at her. "I already called you a few times, but you didn't answer, so this king was kind enough to stop and wait for you. I really don't know why you were in such a daze." Pang Jijing's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, she wasn't suited to doing bad things. She was like a frightened mouse that wanted to bite anyone it caught. She had to act natural, otherwise the bait would be exposed before the fish took the bait. "Who told you to be so cold? I don't even know how to talk to you. You can't blame me for this. It can only be said that you don't have good luck with women." She casually made up a story, but she never thought that the person in front of her would instantly narrow his eyes and reveal a dangerous look. "This king is cold? Then who was the one that applied the medicine for you? Who was the one that fished you out of the water? Who was the one that gave you food when you couldn't eat 3 meals? If that's the case, you should owe this king several favors, but I never thought that you would play the blame game." Pang Jijing was filled with regret in her heart. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have randomly made up this reason. "That, you are my sugar daddy, my creditor, and my savior. I was wrong, I shouldn't repay evil with good. Just pretend that you didn't hear what I said just now." She immediately turned into a lackey as she flattered him. What does sugar daddy mean? Xiao Ho was a bit interested in the new term in her words. Sugar daddy? Sugar daddy? She scratched her head. "It's similar to boss, raising me like this." This mischievous girl in front of him was the Pang Jijing he knew in the past. Xiao Ho slightly curled his lips. This king is very satisfied with this explanation. Raising her? He's very satisfied? Pang Jijing swallowed her saliva. Was this person's brain damaged? However, the person in front of her didn't give her a chance to speak. He turned around and continued walking forward. Pang Jijing immediately jogged to catch up with him. "Hey, slow down. She's a lady." Soon, the two of them arrived at the courtyard amidst her endless chatter. Half of the time had passed. Pang Jijing secretly pinched her fingers to increase her courage. As long as she could endure the remaining time, she would be able to regain her freedom. With this thought, she immediately walked into Xiao Ho's room with her head held high. Out of the corner of his eye, Xiao Ho saw her sneaky look. He smiled faintly, sat down leisurely and said slowly, "What are you up to?" Pang Jijing, who was fumbling for something to hide her excitement, was so frightened that she smashed the vase in her hand. She stammered, "What could I possibly do? Isn't that just showing off in front of Master Guan and overestimating one's capabilities?" "You are indeed overestimating your capabilities," Xiao Ho said with a faint smile. Pang Jijing swallowed her saliva. Why did she feel that there was a hidden meaning in his words? Could it be that she had been exposed? "Speak. You tried so hard to get this prince to bring you here. Is it because you've taken a fancy to something in this prince's room?" Xiao Ho raised his brows and asked leisurely. She let out a big sigh of relief. She had been scared to death. She thought that she had been discovered. Dark night. Dark clouds rolled in as if the sky was about to change. In the blink of an eye, heavy rain poured down. A dark shadow appeared in the King of England's residence. Water Spirit took off her cloak and stood in the study. "What is it?" Xiao Su said faintly. Water Spirit stepped forward and reported, "This subordinate has already found out who was spreading rumors about the princess consort and the 4th prince behind her back after the trip to Hugua Temple." Xiao Su's voice instantly froze. The wife of the assistant minister of the Ministry of Justice, Sang Yu, Yao Yingru. Yao Yingru? Xiao Su narrowed his eyes slightly. Who is this person? She is the daughter of the current Grand Tutor. Before, Water Spirit paused and glanced at her master before continuing. 5 years ago, because she adored you, she repeatedly made things difficult for the young princess consort. This time, she must have come for the young princess consort. She knew that her master would not remember these insignificant people. However, this time, it really was because of this insignificant person that the young princess consort's reputation had been tarnished. Although they had suppressed the rumors, the people who should know already knew. They were just trying to mend the pen after the sheep had been lost. Thinking about it, Water Spirit's heart was filled with anger. This time, she came to ask her master how to deal with this person behind the scenes. Heavens, this person is already married, but she's still thinking about master. She's really fickle. Hualing couldn't help but curse. Turin patted his shoulder and then raised his head to look at his master in front of him. Master, how do you plan to deal with this matter? Their fierce cavalry had never been afraid of fighting and killing, but this was the first time they had made a move against a woman. However, they still had to vent their anger for the young princess consort. Water Spirit, I'll leave this matter to you. It's easier for you to deal with the matters in the inner courtyard. Xiao Su's tone was still indifferent. Water Spirit looked at him and heard him say, "It's the father's fault. Or perhaps, the husband should pay for the wife's debts. This prince wants them to disappear from Ayan's sight forever." His cold tone was laced with bloodthirsty bloodlust. Water Spirit and Turin looked at each other. Their master was really angry this time. He wanted to make Yao Ruoying and the others disappear from the capital forever. We don't have much time left in the capital, so we can't let anything go wrong. These people can't be left alive. They all knew that the more dangerous the situation was, the more they couldn't let side issues crop up. So these people that would cause trouble for their plan had to be removed one by one. After Water Spirit left, the entire study fell into silence. Xiao Su leaned back in his chair. His entire person was immersed in the darkness, so no one could see his current expression. Hualing, have someone send a message to fourth brother. Tomorrow at noon, this prince will be waiting for him at Red Crane Tower. Hualing looked at his master in confusion. What was his master thinking about, meeting the fourth prince at this time? But he still replied, yes. The rumors were like a wave this time, crossing his bottom line. He had more or less sensed his fourth brother's feelings for the little fellow before, but he only confirmed it at Hugua Temple. Thinking about it, he was just young and impetuous. Once his fourth brother matured, he would understand. So he originally planned to turn a blind eye to it. Once he left the capital with the little fellow, he would treat it as if nothing had happened. But this time, it had brought a lot of trouble to the little fellow. If it wasn't for his fourth brother's carelessness, he wouldn't have been caught and implicated the little fellow. So this time, he definitely wouldn't let his fourth brother go. He would treat it as teaching him a lesson. A person, no matter what they did, should always consider the consequences. Just like how a cat would wash its traces after stealing food. This was the principle he wanted to teach his fourth brother. Chapter 1150. Pang Zhijing placed her hands behind her back and tilted her head. You really understand me quite well. Since you asked so sincerely, I'll be merciful and tell you. Xiao shrugged. Pang Zhijing was secretly happy in her heart. I want this painting on your wall. She pointed at the painting on the opposite wall. I like the painting of that cat very much, so I want to take it back and hang it in my room. She didn't expect that the moment she finished speaking, the person opposite her laughed without giving her any face. In an instant, the scenery was clear and countless fireworks exploded before her eyes. In such darkness, it was as if snowflakes were drifting down before her eyes, paving a long path. At the end of the path, there was a young master in white robes. He was sitting diagonally with his hand on his forehead, smiling in a carefree and relaxed manner. For an instant, she felt a little seedling sprouting there. It was itchy and she wanted to get closer. Suddenly, an incomparably loud thunder exploded in the sky. She jumped in fright and pulled herself back from the fantasy earlier. It must be an illusion earlier. It must be an illusion. After that, she turned her head and looked in the direction where Xiao Ho was sitting. After she saw clearly, she suddenly blinked. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? Xiao Ho propped up his chin and looked at her lazily. Pang Zhijing hypnotized herself. The person before her must be possessed by a ghost. There was still a smile on his face. Xiao Ho lifted his chin toward the painting. That's not a cat, it's a tiger in the mountains. Your Highness, please don't insult the standard of a great teacher. Pang Jijing looked at the painting in disbelief. Why didn't it look like a tiger? Xiao Ho shook his head. Pointing a deer as a horse, pointing a tiger as a cat. This king has seen it for himself today. Pang Jijing's face turned red. She had really embarrassed herself. She was so anxious that she wanted to scratch the wall. At this moment, Xiao Ho suddenly held his head. What's going on? I feel a little dizzy. Pang Jijing's ears were sharp. When she heard this, her eyes widened in surprise. Oh yeah, the medicine was working. She pretended to be kind and walked up to him. She asked worriedly, Lord, what's wrong? Are you too tired? Do you want to rest? Xiao Ho shook his head. Why do I feel even dizzier? Stand properly. Why are you swaying? She snickered in her heart. This knockout drug was really interesting. Even a person like Xiao Ho couldn't resist the effects of the drug. She immediately reached out to support the person who was about to stand up, and said very sincerely, It seems that Lord is really tired. This princess is happy today, so I'll help you to the bed to rest first. Just as her hand touched his arm, he raised his head to look at her. His face was abnormally red, and the place her hand touched was also burning hot. She was surprised. This knockout drug was so strange. Why didn't he fall, and why was his entire body burning up? Just as she was about to help him to the bed, she felt a burning hand on her waist. Just as she was about to lower her head, the person leaning on her suddenly turned around and pressed her to the ground. An adult man, tall and strong, pressed her down with a plop. Her entire body fell to the ground. She was almost dazed from the fall. Adding to the fact that he was so heavy, she couldn't move at all. Hey, move away, I can't move you. At this moment, Pang Jijing was still unaware of the changes in Xiao Ho and wanted to break free from him. Who knew that this person looked so thin, but his weight wasn't small at all. She was almost unable to breathe. Xiao Ho's hands were on the ground, holding her in between his arms. One of his legs was pressing down on her legs. His eyes were filled with confusion. Princess, this king feels very hot all over. Ah? This drug can make a person's entire body heat up? It's really strange. Pang Jijing's head was filled with question marks. No matter what, you should first. Her words were stuck in her throat. Pang Jijing stared at the person who was only a piece of paper away from her and suddenly didn't know what to say. A hand touched her face and it was so hot that it made people tremble. Princess, are you hiding ice on your body? When I'm close to you, I feel very comfortable. Take liberties? Take advantage of her. Many thoughts flashed through her mind at once. Wait a minute, this isn't a knockout drug. Did that old doctor take the wrong medicine? This, why does it seem like it's an aphrodisiac? However, while she was in a daze, Xiao Ho had already leaned down and pressed his lips against hers. In a flash, Pang Jijing immediately reached out to push him up. She was so scared that she was already speaking incoherently. Xiao Ho, listen to me. Don't touch me first, all of this is, I won't touch you, I'll use my mouth. The moment he finished speaking, the kiss fell. The sky full of stars suddenly lit up in front of her eyes. She felt dizzy and couldn't see his face clearly. Only her sensitive nerves were following his actions. Little by little information was transmitted to her brain and heart. Suddenly, her body became light. Her whole body was lifted up and swayed for a while. Soon, her back leaned against the soft brocade quilt. The gravity on her body disappeared and her reason immediately came back. Just when she wanted to see her situation clearly, she felt the belt around her waist loosen. She was so scared that her eyes widened. Looking up, she saw that person standing in front of the bed with his back facing the light. In his hands, there were many things, such as belts, hairbands, hairpins. Only then did she realize that her hair was loose and her clothes were untied. Then, the clothes of the person in front of her were also untied, revealing a strong chest. She didn't dare to look down. Things were going in a direction that she didn't expect. At this time, a black shadow covered her and she was firmly in his hands. Xiao Ho, calm down. I'm not your wife, let go of me. Her scalp was about to explode as she kept arguing. This king doesn't have a wife. Xiao Ho bent down bit by bit. No wife? How was this possible? Wait a minute, this wasn't the main point. Suddenly, thunder rang out and the earth became as bright as day. She narrowed her eyes in fear, and at this time, she saw a string of keys hanging from his waist. Wasn't that the key to the exquisite lock? It really was wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. At this time, he was already in front of her. He held her waist with one hand and her hands with the other, fixing them to the side. The hand on her waist slowly moved up and through her clothes. It made her shiver. She suppressed her body's reaction while thinking of a countermeasure. Since the key was in front of her, what was she waiting for? The situation had already reached this point. If she shrank back, then she might not have another chance to touch the key. Let's beat them at their own game. Her hands couldn't move, so she stretched out her long legs and sat on his body, taking the upper hand. Her eyes were like silk, enchanting like a flower. While Xiao Ho was stunned, she revealed a sweet smile. Then today, this miss will use a honey trap. Chapter 1151. It's raining so heavily outside. I keep feeling a little uneasy. Chu Qingyan stood in front of the window and looked into the pitch-black darkness. She couldn't even see her fingers in front of her as she frowned slightly. Xiao Su stood behind her and followed her gaze. He put his hands on her shoulders and asked in a low voice, "What are you thinking about?" "My right eyelid has been twitching recently. I'm thinking that nothing good will happen." Her left eyelid twitching was a blessing, but her right eyelid twitching was a disaster. She sighed softly. "When did you become so superstitious?" Xiao Su chuckled. She turned around and puffed up her cheeks. She thought for a while and then slowly said the worries in her heart. "If it was just my right eyelid twitching, of course I wouldn't care. It's just that too many things have happened recently. I originally planned to keep a low profile before we left and not cause any trouble, but I didn't expect all the rumors in the capital to be directed at the two of us. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to get away." The smile on Xiao Su's lips faded. He raised his hand to tuck her hair behind her ear, and his fingers intimately pinched her cheek. His voice was very soft, and in such a stormy night, it was very gentle. "Don't worry, I've already dealt with the false rumors outside, and I'll also deal with Xiao Ran." "Xiao Ran?" Chu Qingyan instantly looked up. Did the big ice block know that Xiao Ran liked her? Looking at her expression, Xiao Su could tell what she was thinking. "Do you think that Xiao Ran can hide from me after doing so many things?" Chu Qingyan smiled embarrassedly. Who was the big ice block? How could she suppress the things that he was hinting at? She remembered that there were many people in the temple sent by the big ice block. Thinking about it this way, it made sense. She suddenly leaned close to him and sniffed hard. He raised his eyebrows. "What are you doing?" "I'm smelling." "Do you smell vinegar?" She smiled mischievously. Xiao Su chuckled and used a little strength with his fingertips. She immediately covered her face and glared at him. "But then again, do you feel angry that this happened?" After all, he was his younger brother. He knew that she was about to become his sister-in-law, but he still had such thoughts. Moreover, the two brothers were so close. Xiao Su was silent for a while because of her question. The hardest thing for people to control is their own feelings. They don't know where they came from and they're deeply in love. You can't blame him for this, and he reached out and brought her in front of him. He leaned over and leaned against her. His serious and smiling eyes. At that moment, she seemed to see a bright sky full of flowers blooming like a brocade blossoms, but she heard his serious and smiling voice. "My Yen is so outstanding. It's not normal that you don't have followers." His fingers tightened slightly and pulled her into his arms. His eyes were gentle. "So, don't feel burdened. You don't have the ability to be a femme fatale." In an instant, the knot in his heart was untied. Listening to the strong heartbeat in her ear, she seemed to hear the sound of nature. In this world, there were only two things that could make her feel at ease: the big ice cube's embrace and her heartbeat. "Thank you, big ice cube." Of course, As your man, I'll be possessive. I'll mercilessly crush the peach blossoms around you one by one. So I'll say this first. Don't blame me for being heartless. As Xiao Su spoke, the person in his arms suddenly stood on tiptoe, raised her head, and approached his lips. His pupils shrank. It was rare for the little fellow to take the initiative. With a beauty in his arms, it was even more seductive. He wrapped his arms around her waist, lowered his head, and deepened the kiss. She only needed to take one step and he would walk the rest of the way. The flickering candlelight warmly lit up the whole room. The silhouettes on the ground were like paper people stuck close to each other, but they gave off a feeling of infinite love and warmth. The night was getting darker and darker. In summer, the heavens would rain, thunder, and showers whenever they didn't like it. Sometimes, the sun would still be there and it would rain. It was very dark outside. The lit lanterns were swayed by the strong wind and were quickly extinguished by the rain. The entire Prince Yi's mansion was plunged into darkness. Everyone hid in their rooms and didn't dare to come out. Xiao Ho's courtyard was rarely visited by servants. Without his order, no one went to the courtyard. Thunder exploded in the sky. The sound was so loud that it seemed to be right next to their ears. Chu Qingyan saw a flash of light in his eyes. She blinked and looked at him again with the help of the weak candlelight. He looked pained. His white skin was dyed red by the morning glow. He looked like a ripe peach and she couldn't help but want to take a bite. But just as this thought flashed through her mind, she was shocked by herself. Why was she so infatuated? She shook her head, trying to get rid of these inappropriate thoughts. However, a pair of hands silently appeared on her waist. By the time she reacted, the person below was already looking at her with a victorious smile. Princess, I really couldn't tell. You have such a fiery temper, but your waist is actually so soft and very thin. Boom! The sound of thunder exploded in her head. She was being flirted with in broad daylight again. It didn't matter. She was a modern person and wasn't bound by etiquette like the ancient people. She wouldn't lose a piece of flesh from being touched. She placed her hands on his chest and sat on him in a very ambiguous position, but she felt a little uncomfortable. She was the one who was controlling the situation from above, but why did she feel shorter when she looked into his eyes? This feeling was really annoying. She gritted her teeth. When his hand touched where it shouldn't be, she grabbed his wrist and fixed it to the bed. She knew that with her strength, it would be easy for him to break free, so she had to be smart and not rash. Xiao Ho was very interested in her actions. His eyes revealed a sense of anticipation. She gave him a flirtatious look as her eyes sparkled. Your Highness, you can't eat hot tofu if you're impatient. Come, let this princess help you change your clothes. The girl in front of him seemed to have taken off her original pretty and lively outer clothes. From a tender little flower, she suddenly transformed into a charming flower fairy. He couldn't deny that his heart was moved. However, it was only moved. A man's heart was moved by a woman. Pang Jijing didn't know the fluctuations in his heart. She reached out and slowly helped him take off his outer clothes. Only a snow-white inner clothes was left. But she felt that this was enough. Her hand slowly moved down. At the same time, her other hand touched his face to divert his attention. Just as she touched the bunch of keys and was about to secretly take them away, she suddenly felt a force on her wrist that was neither too tight nor too loose. She raised her head and met with a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. Her face turned pale in an instant. Chapter 1152. You! Being caught red-handed, she didn't know how to react for a moment. She didn't dare to move at all. That person's hand had already slowly moved away from her wrist and reached into her palm. He took out the bunch of keys and placed it in front of her. He hooked it with one finger and smiled meaningfully. Didn't you want to accompany this prince? What do you mean by this? The two of them were in an ambiguous position, one on top and the other below. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. It should have been a charming scene, but in reality, the atmosphere had quietly changed. After he finished speaking, it slowly turned cold. Pang Jijing swallowed her saliva as her heart thumped wildly. But the more urgent it was, the calmer she had to be. She took a deep breath and raised a flattering smile. Didn't I help you take off your clothes? I was afraid that the bunch of keys would hurt you, so I kindly helped you take it away. I can swear to the moon that I didn't mean it. The moon? Xiao Ho chuckled. In this kind of quiet and tense atmosphere, it was especially magnetic. The moon is waxing and waning, and it's different every night. Do you think that this prince will believe you if you swear to such a fickle thing? He really was a difficult person to deal with. Then what do you want me to do to make you believe me? She would first muddle through this hurdle. In any case, he was still drugged, so she could do whatever she wanted to him later. Xiao Ho looked up and his eyes flashed. He had seen through her thoughts, but he didn't expose her. His finger hooked the bunch of keys and turned it around. Then he raised his hand and threw it out of the bed. With a quang dang sound, the bunch of keys landed somewhere. You! She couldn't help but cry out. Then she was suddenly pulled down by a force. The world spun and she was quickly removed. The person she had just pressed down on was now looking down at her. Pleasing me. Xiao Ho's thin lips parted as he looked at her with an indifferent expression. What? She was frightened. Xiao Ho, do you know what you're saying? Xiao Ho scoffed. Didn't you just ask what you had to do to make this prince believe you? Now I want you to show your loyalty and you can't do it? She smelled that something was wrong. Was there something wrong with the medicine? Thinking of this, she thought that it was impossible for her to get the key tonight, so she planned to break free. Xiao Ho, don't forget your identity. Also, regardless of whether we're working together or not, I'm still the princess sent by the Southern Blue Continent to make peace with the Southern Blue Continent. You can't do anything improper to me. Illegal? Xiao Ho seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. His laughter reverberated from his chest, making her feel a little dizzy. Then may I ask your highness, who was the one who drugged the tea? She was originally extremely angry, but when she heard his question, she immediately became like a deflated balloon. It turned out that he had already discovered her, so if she didn't run now, when would she? She smiled and looked up. What is the Lord saying? Why can't this princess understand a single word? After saying this, while her hands could still move freely, she immediately pushed him to the side. She immediately got up and prepared to escape. However, even though she was fast, someone was faster than her. Just as she jumped off the bed, there was a force that brought her back up. She was a little dazed from the fall. When she opened her eyes, Xiao Ho reached out to hold her chin. His expression was a little cold. Pang Jijing, weren't you the one who drugged me? Didn't you want to get close to this king? Since your prey that delivered itself to my door, how could this king let you go so easily? Hearing his words, the alarm bells in Pang Jijing's heart rang. This person wouldn't he force himself on her, right? She was afraid and immediately wanted to struggle, but she found that she couldn't move her body. She looked at the person in front of her in fear. Xiao Ho reached out to touch her face and whispered like a lover, "This king has already sealed your acupuncture points. You can't escape." She anxiously said, trying to wake him up. "Xiao Ho, are you too drugged? Wake up." When Xiao Ho heard this, he approached her and slowly said in her panic, "Do you really think that your every move can escape this king's control?" What do you mean?" She was a little confused. "This prince knows exactly what medicine you took when you entered the clinic. So, if you want to fool this prince, your skills are still very shallow." He chuckled and looked at her stunned expression. It seemed that he was amused and his mood was somewhat happy. She never thought that this person would send someone to monitor her. She felt very indignant, but there was one thing she couldn't understand. "The medicine only went through my hands and I saw you drink it with my own eyes, so how can you be safe and sound?" A faint self-deprecation appeared in Xiao Ho's eyes. "Do you think that if you want to survive in the imperial palace, you can survive until now without the ability to protect yourself? This king has been testing medicine since young. I don't dare say that I can deal with all the anesthetics and love poisons in the world, but in this king's eyes, those medicines on the market are nothing. That's why this king drank your tea." After listening to these words, the first thought that came to her mind was not that he had lied to her, but that his tone was plain and ordinary, but it was full of vicissitudes that made her heart ache. She did not understand why she would feel this way. However, at this time, his breath hit her face, making her come back to her senses. She angrily said, "So you've been acting this whole time." Compared to your dirty tricks, this king feels that this king is already magnanimous. Since you've chosen this path, then you should be prepared to bear the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a rip. Her clothes had already been torn apart, lying in his hands like 2 pieces of cloth. This change was too fast, so she didn't have time to react. "Xiao, you can't be like this. You bought this medicine, so you should know what it does. Now that you're reacting like this king is confused. Did you want this king to pamper you and then take the key?" Xiao bit her shoulder and then heard her muffled groan. He wasn't wrong, she did want to take the key, but this medicine wasn't her original intention. But the other side didn't listen to her explanation and blocked her mouth as soon as she opened her mouth. Woo, what should she do? This was not the result she wanted. Suddenly, Xiao's attack stopped. He tasted her tears and it was salty, making his reason come back to him. He propped himself up and looked at her. Her petite cheeks were covered in tears and her cherry lips were red from being bitten by him. The most important thing was that her tear-filled eyes were filled with grievance, fear, and despair. He felt that somewhere deep in his heart, he suddenly felt a stab of pain. "I didn't want to give you this medicine at all. I wanted to buy a knockout drug, but the doctor misunderstood." Her voice was choked with sobs and she was filled with grievance. Xiao froze because of her words. "You big scoundrel, bastard." Well, it was clearly a thunderstorm, but at this moment, his ears were only filled with the sound of her crying. Chapter 1153. Seeing the crying Pang Zhijing in front of him, Xiao didn't know what to do this time. It wasn't that he hadn't seen people cry before, but this was the first time he had seen someone cry to the point that he couldn't get rid of them. He was silent for a while before unnaturally raising his hand to wipe the tears off her face. The extra gentle touch on her face made Pang Zhijing stare at him in a daze. He felt a bit uncomfortable being stared at by her. His movements were gentle, but his words were more obvious. "What this king hates the most is people plotting against me behind my back. Princess, what do you have to say about this?" At a time like this, he had to take the initiative and stand at the highest point. He had to make her revere him from her initial sadness and anger. Sure enough, Pang Zhijing was just full of anger, but in an instant, she was only left with bits and pieces of dregs by his words. Using this kind of despicable method wasn't right, but he wasn't a good person either. Although she felt it was wrong, she didn't regret it. "You're not right. Could it be that you don't allow me to give you a taste of your own medicine?" Xiao let out a sigh of relief in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He coldly said, "Princess, even if you get the key, do you think you can safely leave the capital?" "What do you mean?" She was surprised. He didn't look like he was lying. "The people who want to kill you are lying in ambush outside the capital. If it wasn't for this king's protection, do you think you can still stand here and bargain with this king?" Xiao gave a soft snort. Pang Zhijing finally remembered the assassination attempt a few days ago. She had been too comfortable and happy recently, forgetting that the disaster caused by the original body hadn't been solved yet. Her face was filled with annoyance. Xiao saw that her mood was no longer as agitated as before, so he unsealed her acupuncture points. Receiving her freedom, Pang Zhijing immediately stood up from the bed and jumped far away from him. She straightened her neck and said, "Since my plan has been exposed, just say how you want to punish me. The winner is king and the loser is in the wrong." After saying this, the person in front of her leaned against the bed and stared at her without blinking. She couldn't understand the emotions in his eyes. "Sometimes I really want to get rid of you." She shuddered. She could tell that he was serious. She thought that if it wasn't for the fact that she was still useful, he would have left her to fend for herself. "I'll let it go this time. If there's a next time, I'll throw you out of the city. Then you'll know that I've been merciful to you. She subconsciously clenched her fists. She knew that he meant what he said. Xiao didn't misjudge her fear, and a trace of regret floated in his heart. He knew that she was like this, and threatening her would only be counterproductive. More importantly, he didn't know why he suddenly couldn't bear it. This feeling came inexplicably and suddenly. Okay. She bit her lip and agreed. After saying that, she turned around and walked towards the door like a wandering soul. After taking 2 or 3 steps, her wrist was suddenly grabbed from behind. She didn't know where her strength came from, but she turned around and fiercely pushed him back. She panicked like a trapped beast. "Don't touch me." Xiao had been annoyed by her push, but seeing her reaction, most of the anger in his heart dissipated. If you go out like this, you'll fall into the eyes of others. This king will have someone come in and change your clothes. After saying this, he didn't look at her again as he walked past her. Even after she finished changing her clothes, she still didn't see him appear. "Princess, Lord is so good to you," the maid in the king's palace said with a look of envy. Her lips twitched, but she couldn't smile no matter how hard she tried. She stepped over the threshold and floated out of the yard like a zombie. In the hallway, the rain flew in and her clothes were covered in water vapor, bringing with it a bone-chilling cold. Her heart was filled with complicated and contradictory feelings. He had clearly almost violated her, but she couldn't hate him. Although on the way here, he had schemed against her many times, but she still had a trace of beautiful expectations for him. Was it because she was obsessed with looks? Did she not have any resistance towards beautiful people or things? As for him, he was also very strange. He could clearly be very cold and heartless to her, but when she schemed against him, he had spared her again and again. Just now, he had even carefully paid attention to her image. Was it because she was his trump card, so he was very lenient towards her? Pang Jijing, for you right now, isn't the most important thing to you to regain your freedom and become an unrestrained and happy tourist? What is wrong with you? She walked to the king's palace entrance and stepped into the rain, not caring about the rain falling on her body. The servants guarding outside were so scared that they immediately opened their umbrellas to catch her. She looked up at the dark sky and her heart suddenly felt very empty. What was the meaning of me transmigrating? When Pang Jijing left the room, Xiao did not go far. He stood on the steps and watched her figure leave with a silent expression. That delicate figure in the wind and rain was like a butterfly that could be blown away at any time, so fragile. It was such a fragile person that he had almost destroyed her just now. Today, when he found out that she had entered the medicine store to buy medicine to scheme against him, according to normal circumstances, he should have been used to it. But the first thing he felt was disappointment. So she was not different from other girls. At that time, he was restrained by his emotions and did not investigate further. Why did he have such thoughts? Now that he thought about it, she was different in his eyes. So later on, he beat her at her own game and wanted her to taste some bitterness. This medicine could not be casually used. Even if it was a normal man, she would still be at a disadvantage in terms of strength. He had originally planned to teach her a lesson, but when he touched her, everything was out of his control. That medicine should not have any effect on him, but it was like he was poisoned and couldn't control his actions. Especially when she took the key, his heart was filled with a trace of panic. If she opened the exquisite lock like this and ran far away, where would he go to find her? Fortunately, her tears woke him up, but at that moment, he couldn't look into her clear eyes, especially when she cried and said that the medicine wasn't her intention. He immediately overturned his previous denial and anger towards her. How could such a stupid girl come up with such a lousy idea? But he was also glad that it was not a knockout drug. That kind of thing would take some time to dissolve in his body. Perhaps by that time, she would have already escaped far away. "Your Highness, are you tempted?" A figure suddenly appeared behind him and hit the nail on the head. Chapter 1154. The sudden question that came from behind him made Xiao Hoji freeze on the spot. His pupils constricted. The heavy rain, lightning, and thunder seemed to have lost their sound. His mind went blank. How is this possible? Not hearing Lord's reply, Xiao Ho's advisor, Lin Jiangdong, walked out from the shadows. He bowed in front of Xiao Ho, then repeated his question. Lord, have you fallen in love with that princess? The first time was a question, but the second time was filled with certainty. Although his heart was surging with emotions, Xiao Ho still maintained a calm expression. Sir Lin, aren't you thinking too much? Lin Jiangdong rubbed his chin and smiled faintly. Lord, the onlooker sees everything clearly. The Southern Blue Princess has a lively temperament and a good appearance. It's not surprising that you've fallen in love with her after spending so much time with her. What does Sir want to say? Xiao Ho glanced at Lin Jiangdong. Lin Jiangdong sighed. Lord, please don't be sentimental at this time. You still have a blood feud to take. If you don't move forward because of love, then all our years of planning will go to waste. During this period of time, he had seen Lord's changes. Ever since the Southern Blue Princess appeared, his master had changed a lot. Although it was only a small change, it was a fatal flaw for a person in power. Xiao Ho narrowed his eyes. Are you lecturing this prince? Lin Jiangdong bowed and apologized. This one doesn't dare. It's just that this one doesn't want to see Lord forget our grand plan because of your soft-heartedness. Xiao Ho smiled coldly. How can this prince forget? This prince has prepared for so many years. How can I give up halfway? Don't worry about Pang Zhijing. This prince won't lose the big picture for a small thing, so you don't need to be so paranoid. She doesn't have the ability to make this prince lose control. With the Lord's promise, Lin Jiangdong breathed a sigh of relief. The Lord is wise. After Lin Jiangdong left, Xiao Ho put his hands behind his back and looked up at the curtain of rain. Perhaps Lin Jiangdong was right and wrong, but he would never disrupt his plans for a woman. One person, one eves, one dark night, yet his back appeared bleak. In a courtyard in the capital, Higashio Motetsu leaned lazily on the chaise lounge, fiddling with the fan in his hand. His attention was focused on his hand, and he said in a casual tone, Today, Palace Lord, you came here personally. Do you have any orders for me? Dong Tingfan was sitting at the head of the table. He was very displeased at his son's sloppy appearance. You always stand and sit like this. How are you going to lead everyone in the Moon Palace in the future? I've been like this since I was young. There's nothing I can do about it, so you don't have to take it to heart. If you want to hand over the Moon Palace to me, then hand it over to me. If you don't want to hand it over to me, then that's fine too. I'm used to freedom. If you want me to be free, then I'd be more than happy. Higashio Motetsu still looked indifferent. As soon as he said this, Dong Tingfan's blood rushed to his head. He angrily pointed at his unambitious son. Do you really want to anger your father to death? Higashio Motetsu looked at him coldly. Although there was a smile at the corner of his mouth, his words were very rude. Do you think you've ever fulfilled your responsibilities as a husband or a father? I'm not going to argue with you. Dong Tingfan held his forehead. He couldn't discipline this son of his. He remembered the official business he had come for today and said coldly, Tomorrow night is the palace banquet for the official meeting between the two countries. I have something I need you to do. Higashio Motetsu shrugged, unsurprised. Speak. What is it? Although Dong Tingfan didn't like his son's attitude, he had no choice but to pretend he didn't see it. There were still many things he needed his son to help him with. He gave a look to the person beside him, and a subordinate handed him a letter. After Higashio Motetsu took the letter, he said calmly, This matter concerns the intensification of the conflict between Xiao Ran and Xiao Su. You must take care of it properly. Hearing this, Higashio Motetsu was a little surprised. What kind of matter could achieve such an effect? He opened the letter without hesitation. After skimming through it, his expression turned ugly. Let Chu Qingyan lose her chastity to Xiao Su at the palace banquet? Dong Tingfan didn't notice his expression and explained, Xiao Ran has taken a liking to Chu Qingyan, but because of the marriage contract, consort, you came up with this idea. Just follow the plan written on it. This way, Xiao Su and Xiao Ran's brotherhood is more or less over. Consort Yu wants to use this matter to make it impossible for them to be brothers. You also know that Xiao Ran doesn't have a strong desire to seize the throne. This time, it can be considered giving him a push. After saying this, Dong Tingfan didn't hear a reply for a long time. He frowned slightly. What? Do you have something to say about this plan? Higashio Motetsu clenched the paper in his hand as if he wanted to crush it. His tone was still as mocking as usual. Don't you think it's disgraceful to do such a thing? You're actually using a woman. Dong Tingfan coldly glanced at him. Wan Yu, there's no honor or dishonor in disputes over power. As long as you can achieve your goal, there's nothing wrong with using unscrupulous means. What you lack now is the decisiveness to achieve great things. Alright, father still has things to deal with, so I'll be leaving first. You just have to remember that this matter can only succeed. After saying this, Dong Tingfan didn't linger and left with his men. Only Higashio Motetsu and Xuanshi Zimo were left in the hall. Xuanshi Zimo felt the temperature in the room drop continuously, and his scalp tightened. The palace lord didn't know about the relationship between the young palace lord and Chu Qingyan, but he knew very well that Chu Qingyan was the only friend that the young palace lord had taken a liking to after so many years. Now that he was going to scheme against her, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for the young palace lord. Young palace lord, are you all right? He asked with difficulty. He shouldn't have asked at this time, but he knew that other than him, no one else would dare to ask such a question. Higashio Motetsu's gaze never left the letter in his hand. He suddenly laughed softly. His laughter was bleak and bitter. Zimo, I've always thought that standing on the opposite side of Xiao Su, as long as I didn't hurt her, I would be able to maintain the relationship between the two of us. But now, I realize that I was wrong. How can things be so simple in this world? As long as she's someone by Xiao Su's side, the flames of war will spread to her. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. Xuanshi Zimo was stunned. It was rare to hear the young palace lord use the word to speak. It seemed that the young palace lord had suffered a huge blow this time, but he didn't know how to comfort him. He blamed himself for being clumsy. Higashio Motetsu crushed the letter in his hand, his eyes dark and gloomy. Little girl, how can I protect you? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.